was wrong to say. I wouldn't change a thing, 'cause in the story of our lives, the best of times through colored glass. Time rolls on enough to let me move on past, but every little now and then it creeps on back to shape my smile.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever the case may be. For all of you listening out there across the crazy planet Earth, welcome to a brand new season of Vestiges After Dark. And I'm your host, Bishop Brian Willett, coming to you live from the deep woods of Western Georgia on this February 21st, 2023. Tonight, we have returning guest Regan Forston with us to discuss a new topic, something we've never covered on this show before, and that is handwriting analysis. And we'll be taking samples from all of you. I'll explain to you how this is going to work here in a moment. He's also going to be analyzing our chicken scratch. Should be pretty interesting. That's up on hour 2, okay? So he'll come on in hour 2. Hour 1, we've changed up the format. I'm going to explain it all in just a moment. Don't go away. Everyone, welcome back to Vestiges After Dark in this brand new season in the year 2023. First show of the year, actually. We've missed you all, and I hope that you had a wonderful holiday season during the period of time where we were not around. You know, I mean, that just sometimes happens. We need to take breaks, and the Advent season is really crazy for us, so it's just not possible for us to do a show during that period of time. Now, I'm getting a little bit of static feedback on yours again. I don't know why that is. There. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. Do you guys hear static? You tell me in the chat if you're hearing static. It might just be through my headset for some reason. I don't know. We've been having this problem a little bit. But if you're hearing it, let me know and I'll do something to try to correct it. I don't know what's going on actually, but hopefully you guys can hear. It's not too bad on my end, but it's more important that you can. You can hear it a little bit?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to bother anybody.
No static. Okay, good. So it's just coming through my headset for some reason, or it's coming through our system. But as long as you guys can't hear it, that's all that matters. Now, here's the thing. We've got a new format here for this season, and I want to kind of describe to you a little bit about how this is going to go from here on out. We would notice that when we would do a show, and we'd start the show with the guest, or the topic, whichever one, or sometimes it's both the guest and the topic, right? Like it is tonight. We would have, a bunch of people log in at the beginning of the show and watch the topic. And then as soon as we went to questions, they'd leave. So the third hour was only the diehards who wanted to stay. And we wanted to trying to switch that up a little bit and see if this format works better. It's more traditional radio format, actually. So the first hour is going to now be, it's just going to be questions from the ether and the news from the day and whatever kinds of discussion we want to have with Father Chris during that period of time. And to change things up even more, Questions from the Ether is now not just me giving you something that I found or on the internet or something that somebody sent me. It is now going to feature Brandon Milam. You've seen him on the show as a guest before. We've been on his show. And he's going to be joining us for the first hour of every episode to give us questions that he's finding, either stuff that's relevant to the topics that we cover, or it could actually be something that he sees on my social media or the church's social media or somewhere, or maybe even a question from his life, his own questions, or something from someone that he knows. All of this is a possibility, and we're going to be spending the first hour of every episode covering whatever's the current events. Then we're going to get into the topic, okay, with our guests or whatever the topic happens to be. And tonight it's handwriting analysis. But before we can even start the, bringing everybody on and doing questions from the ether, there's a little bit of an exercise here that we need to do in order to make this a fun show tonight. So Regan, as I mentioned, is going to be analyzing our handwriting. Okay, and there's a very specific thing that you need to do in order to get your analysis, and he probably won't have time to do everybody, so we're probably going to have to pick some random ones, but he's going to definitely do Jamie and myself, and I've got one from Tracy here as well, and I'm sure Brandon and Father Chris might want to jump in on this as well. But if you have if you want to be read, if you want your handwriting read, this is what you got to do. Okay, so right now you got to go and get yourself an 8.5 by 11 clear piece of copy paper, no lines. Okay, just a blank piece of paper. Okay, and so I'm going to give you a moment to go and get that, because you need to write something down, and you got to write down specifically what I am going to tell you in cursive. Okay, no printing, and don't write out numbers. If I give you a number, you have to write the word of that number. So if I give you the number 4, you don't write 4, you write FOUR. Okay, so make sure you have a clear piece of paper, no lines, and that you're ready to write this down. And I also want to mention that every now and then our phone service changes our number if we don't use it. When we go away on hiatus, like we did for the holidays, we lost our old number. So there's actually a new number for this show. It's in the description on YouTube, also on Spreaker as well. But I'm going to give that to you now while some of you are still probably trying to find paper and a pen. But that new number, and I'm going to have it up on the screen here. In fact, I'm going to show it to you right now just so that you can see it. I don't want you calling in yet because we're not ready for that right now. But the number on the screen is the number that you will be calling now. So our new number is 718-362-6380. That's 718-362-6380. And the PIN number is actually easier than it used to be. The new PIN number is 855-4111. That's 4111. 855-4111. Okay, so when we get to the third segment, the third hour is when we're going to be taking your calls, your questions in the chat room, all that. Okay. So I'm gonna take that off the screen now. I just wanted you guys to have it so that it's ready to go when you call in, because I know you guys are chopping at the bit to call in. Yeah, right. That almost never happens, but hey, who knows? It's a new season, so things can happen. And I'm also on TikTok now. I hate TikTok, but I'm there, and it's kind of a necessary evil. It's kind of part of the process now, I think, of social media. So I have a TikTok account, and I've been giving a very short and concise demonology series there. I think we're almost up to lesson 30. Go and check those out. There's like 30 of them right now. They're 3 minutes a piece, and it gives you some background into how I approach demonology. And we've, got a whole new following over there. So hopefully some of you are people that found me on TikTok and are now coming over here to become subscribers. We are at 990 subscribers for this channel. So all we need is 10 more to get to 1,000. We've been trying to hit 1,000 because that's when things change in the algorithm for YouTube. At least that's what I've been told. So please, if you are not subscribed, okay, I see right now that there are 20 people on YouTube watching right now, and a whole bunch probably in the other sources. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel so we can hit that 1,000, okay? All right, so everyone should have their pen and paper now. So this is what I need you to write down, okay? And then there's more instruction. But first, write this down. I'm going to go slow, so get your paper ready. Remember, clear piece of paper, no lines. 8.5 by 11. All right, this is what you're going to write in cursive. No printing. My handwriting will tell me 440 things about my personality and my sexuality. Now, understand, sexuality in this context is not about intercourse, okay? It's about how you act in the world, okay? So, again, I'm going to repeat that for those of you who might have missed it. My handwriting will tell me 440 things about my personality and my sexuality. One more time. My handwriting will tell me 440 things about my personality and my sexuality. Once you're done with that, sign it as you would an important document. So basically your signature. Okay? Once you've done that, I need you to email that directly to Regan. Okay, he's going to be picking these at random, and then, just leave your first name so that he can say this is Alice's handwriting analysis, or this is, whoever. And what you're going to do is you're going to just take a picture of it with your phone. Okay, that's going to be the easiest way, I think, than trying to use a scanner or something. Just take a picture of it with your phone. Make sure you're on the setting most iPhones have a setting where you can take something up close and it looks very good. And send the picture with the subject line, Vestiges After Dark. Okay, and just send it to reganforston54@gmail.com. All right, all one word, REGANFORSTON 54@gmail.com. That's reganforston54@gmail.com. Okay, so if you're interested in having your handwriting analyzed, you might be lucky and you might get picked. And if there's not a whole lot of you that send an email in, you're definitely going to get picked. But he's got Brandon and Father Chris here, and we've got also 3 here. We got Jamie, myself, and Tracy. So we'll have stuff to analyze at least. But Brandon and Father Chris, I'm going to bring you guys on now. Make sure you send that over to Regan before the start of the next segment. But how are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it is good to be back, isn't it?
It feels like forever, actually.
It does.
So, and I must apologise. I did send Bishop Brian a message, but I'm only really here for the first hour this week. But usually I will be back for the third hour. So I will
still submit your handwriting.
I'm sending it right now.
Okay,
yeah, because we want to know.
Yeah, well, we can talk about you when you're not here, which is always fun. And then
absolutely,
you can log into the archive and find out what you're all about.
Yeah.
Brandon, how are you doing? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Hey,
doing great. Thank you for being here and being a part of this this new segment. I'm very excited about this, and we're gonna, I think, have a good time because you are the master of questions. You seem to find them out of the woodwork. And there's nobody better suited to, I think, introducing the questions from the ether than you are. So welcome to being a regular part of the show. I hope you're looking forward to it.
I'm glad that y'all chose me. It's just, I just love asking questions. I just love learning from anyone I can learn from.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's how we learn, honestly. There's 2 ways that we learn, and it has nothing to do with the classroom. We learn by asking questions from people who actually, have well thought out answers. And we also learn by teaching. I would actually say teaching is the primary way that I learn things, because when I am forced to conceptualize it in a way that makes it understandable to a person who might not be as knowledgeable in the subject as I am, it helps me to even better understand the topic, and it reinforces it and it sticks into my brain. So I enjoy teaching for that reason, which is why you probably noticed that I do a lot of that. So we're happy to have you as part of this edition. But So, okay. So you guys got your, I hope the audience has send it over, blow up Regan's email. He can start looking at them now as they come in. Great. He's with
don't
us.
Don't try to cheat. Just write like you normally would. It was hard for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm very much looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
I mean, I have atrocious handwriting, so I'm very.
Me too.
I'm interested to see how it's going to go. Okay, so Father Chris, Brandon, Jamie, let's go ahead and get this show started. Oh, one more thing. I almost forgot. My goodness, we forgot to do our drinks.
Well, I poured you a dram there.
You did. I have it right here. So what are we drinking tonight?
We have a Dalwhinnie 15 Highland single malt scotch.
Dalwhinnie 15.
I love
Dalwhinnie
Dalwhinnie.
15.
That is one of my absolute favorites of all time.
Well, then I guess I'll have to have an extra pour for you.
Oh, cheers. Well, it looks like you gave me an
That's
extra
right.
pour, so
That is a Jamie dram.
Okay, I see. Jamie German. That's a little more than what I normally would get, but that's okay.
Things were getting
Cheers.
spicy earlier, so
It was getting spicy. We have always technical issues at the last minute.
medicine. We needed the medicine to go down.
If you noticed during the pre-show, there was no countdown because the countdown screwed up on us and we couldn't get it going. So we just had to change it and just say we'll be live at 8 p.m. You guys know the drill. And by the way, I made it a point through the course of the break to get AT&T on the problem that we were having last season. As any of you know who were here for season 6, it was a horrible season as far as connection goes. There was, some of the shows ended up having 3 parts because we would be knocked off, and then it created 3 different files on YouTube. The archive is a mess. The whole season was a mess. Sometimes we couldn't even get it going. It was a lot of buffering when we were working. It was terrible. So I complained. I said, look, I need to have more reliability than this. And they did an analysis, and we talked about some of the issues and what I actually use this for. And they set up, it only costs like $10 a month for the equipment. So I'm not it's not a big deal. But they set up a mesh network in this house, and part of the problem is, and this is what I did not realize, there are security cameras all outside and inside this property. Okay, there's about 20 of them around, and they're all connected to the internet. And we have like 4 iPhones. 3 or 4 iPads. We've got computers and 4 or 5 smart TVs. All these devices, even when they're not doing anything, if they're on, they're connecting and pulling bandwidth from the overall connection. And because there was only one gateway in this house, it was all going through that one device, and it was all being split. This signal was being split amongst 32 devices are connected to this house. And that's over 7,000 square feet of connection, because these devices are about 7,000 square feet around the general vicinity. So they said that's way too much space, way too many devices, and it's diluting your signal. This is why you're having that problem that you're describing. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to get up a mesh network, which is these extenders that you put in weak places around the property, so that the devices that are in that location connect to it, and then it's just one signal to the gateway. And it also gives you the control to be able to prioritize 2 devices. So guess which one's prioritized right now? This computer, which means that if there's any drop in signal amongst any of the other devices, then it will shut those devices down and always favor this connection, which means that for this point going forward, we should not be having any kind of significant buffering or any kind of major. In fact, we should even give you a clearer picture. I hope you can see that, and you can see we have a new set back here. I've tried to liven it up and change up the colors and make it much more inviting and fun. So with that said, let's get started with questions from the ether. Okay, Brandon, I know you've been waiting for this, so let's go for it.
All right, so I got a couple good questions. The first one comes from TikTok. the user Void of the Flutterby
Okay.
asked, do you think it's possible to have someone visit you in a dream?
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's definitely possible. I mean, almost anything's possible, and there's certainly people that have experienced this. I have suspected I've experienced this, and I've even talked about one of those experiences on this show in previous seasons. So I would say, if you're asking just my personal opinion, I would say yes. My professional opinion, I have to leave it to it's in the realm of possibility because I have not done any significant research into whether or not that has ever been confirmed. But there has been people that have told me, again, this is, through their word of mouth, not through any kind of study, that they have had experiences where this indeed has occurred. So I would say it is possible. Jamie, you have you ever experienced anything like that?
I've experienced a flash of, someone that has passed on trying to communicate with me.
Right.
What would be interesting is if you got a visitation from another living person in the dream realm. That I would be interested in seeing.
If both knew about it, if they both said
if you wake up and be like, "Oh, that was funny. I had a dream about you. We were talking about golf," and the other person's like, "What?" That would be interesting. That I haven't heard of that.
I have known people that have said that has happened to them, but then again, it's like you got to take their word for it because there's no way to prove it.
Right.
Yeah, I would say it's in the realm of possibility. Personally, I do believe it. Father Chris, you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely possible. So I've just put a link in the chat on YouTube to a talk by Metropolitan Callistos Ware on the theology of dreams, and I think somewhere in that talk he makes reference to this. But yeah, certainly do. I believe in bilocation, and it's very much within the tradition of orthodoxy. To not to place our faith in those things, of course, but that these things are possible. So no, I certainly have had dreams where I think people have spoken to me, although they were people who have died. And I've
had that.
Me too.
Yeah.
The rationalist in me says, well, your brain's creating a nice narrative to
right. You're grieving. You're going through the process. Yeah.
When my grandmother died,
or it might not be.
When my grandmother died back in 1995, I think it was. So it was quite a while ago. I had that very experience, and I can tell you that it was unlike any dream I ever had before or since. It was a unique type of experience. It did not feel like a dream. It felt very tangible. It was something enduring about it. There was information conveyed that was important. So yeah, I think definitely the dead can communicate to us through dreams. No question about that. Whether the living can or not, I think it's definitely within the realm of possibility because, we're all just spirits anyway. Whether you're alive or dead doesn't really matter, whether you're corporeal or not.
And also, people have explored whether telepathy is scientifically measurable.
Yeah.
I would see no difference between telepathy that tries to speak to you while you're awake and while you're asleep. It's the same nature.
I think so.
One of my favorite Beatles stories, Paul McCartney stories, is, and many people will be familiar with this. His mother died when he was quite young, and he said that she appeared to him in a dream, and he was stressed and concerned about lots of things, and his mum just said, "Just let it be." And that's when he wrote "Let It Be," and his mum was called Mary. Now, the interesting thing is that "Let It Be" is also a translation of what Mary said to the angel. The fiat, "Let it be according to thy word."
Yeah.
Whether I'm sure he also knew that because he did grow up a Catholic and sang at his parish church. Because my view is that the way when I hear "Let It Be," it's a Marian hymn as far as I'm concerned.
I can see that. Yeah, I can. I that is a nice song. I didn't care for imagine as much. I know people love that one.
Oh my God, no, that's communist.
It is, yeah. I didn't.
Just imagine all the people being the same.
It's a wonderful tune playing the piano.
Great tune, terrible words.
Yeah, the words are horrific. And it sounds really seductively nice. Like it sounds like, oh, we're going to be one big happy, family here, but it's not quite the reality of it. But so I think that answers the question. All right, Brandon, what's the next one here?
All right, so the next question comes from Angela from Facebook. And the question is it normal during prayer to vividly feel like you're with God?
I would say that if you don't have one of those experiences at some point in your life, you're doing it wrong. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that, I guess normal, what do we mean by normal? If you're talking normal as an average.
I'd say it's a blessing.
Yeah.
I think it's a blessing.
You don't feel it all the time.
Because I think it's normal.
Yeah.
I think it's normal to feel nothing when you pray.
I think that's normal too.
I wouldn't want to discourage people in prayer by saying, "Oh, you got to have this, euphoric experience."
No,
God.
Definitely not. Not all the time, but I would think though that I would say that at some point in your life, there are moments where God feels more tangibly closer to us in prayer than others. And I have experienced the ebb and flow of this all my life. And most people I know who do, I can confirm, have an active prayer life, agree that there seems to be an ebb and flow to that experience. So normalcy, I don't know if there's such a thing as normal when it comes to prayer, because it really just sort of takes on its own life. So normal could be 10 years and feeling absolutely nothing. Normal could be 10 years of absolute profound elation. I mean, there's all sorts of ways in which the prayer life works. So, but I would say if you're absolutely having committed yourself to a life of prayer, and 5, 10, 15, 20 years goes by and you've never gotten anything out of it, that's something that you do need to look at though. Because when you say where God feels closer to us, I know what you really mean, which is that in fact we're more aware of His presence. He's always there. Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And it's us. We're the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ebb and flow is a really good description.
Yeah.
Ebb and flow is a really good description. The ancient Celts built their monasteries on the sea. They talk about the liminal spaces, the thin spaces where it seems the gap between heaven and us is paper thin. Yeah. And they built their monasteries on the ocean because the ocean very much represents that, because there's an ebb and flow of the sea, right? And so
we should do a show on liminal places at some point. I think
that's a great idea.
Write that down.
Yeah, let's do that.
But for further reading, people could look it up in the meantime. Liminal spaces, the Celtic Orthodox tradition.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So to get back to the question though, and to kind of expand upon what Father Chris just said, absolutely the problem with the ebb and flow, what causes the ebb and flow, is not God, moving away from us, coming back in. It's us. We waver. And what we experience when connecting with God is our own weaknesses. It's a kind of a reflection. Prayer becomes very often a reflection of our own internal processes spiritually. So if we're very troubled spiritually, that will reflect on the encounter that we have. Sometimes there could be consolation in those moments of weakness. Sometimes it could be a very long, dark night of a soul. All of these are possibilities. So there's no such thing as like a normal thing in prayer. It affects everyone differently, and it affects every person differently depending upon where they're at in their own situation. So ebb and flow is the best I can describe, and I think it works.
That's exactly right.
I mean, you've encountered that too.
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
I've had moments. I like to go meditate in the woods or pray in the woods,
right?
When it's really quiet, less distractions.
Yeah.
And I've had profound experiences with interaction of nature where the animals get super quiet, or they come near, or you feel the presence. Mm-hmm. And then I've prayed where I just can't seem to get focused, and I end up stopping because it's just not going to work. Yeah. So it's my head that's screwing it up.
It is. And the reason I know this is because I've experienced and been able to confirm it for myself. Because when I was a seminarian, I would go into church, and I would go in and I'd get there usually about an hour before Mass, so I could just sit with the Blessed Sacrament and pray and contemplate on the true presence in the tabernacle. It was something I always liked to do, and usually the churches were, like a tomb. It was like dead empty in there an hour before Mass.
Yeah.
Maybe an occasional.
Well, that's the ultimate thin space, right? I mean,
it really is. It really is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. And so I would go in, and I would say within about 5 minutes, the presence of God would become exceptionally loud to the point that you couldn't ignore it. And then Mass would start, and Mass would actually sort of almost distract from that. Because the noise in the brain starts to respond. That's how I know, because it's like, no, wait, the Mass is even more profound than just the fact that the presence is in the tabernacle. But because my brain is now being inundated with stimuli, I am filtering out. My brain starts filtering out the experience of God, the presence of God that I'm having a more difficult time connecting to because of the noise. And then you have to kind of shift your perspective. Sometimes the Mass can be tremendously powerful, and I think that's why music's important. A good liturgy is important. Gregorian chant. I mean, these are things that human beings can do to more tangibly align ourselves to the presence of God so that we can be more aware of it. But it is very important to understand that God's presence is immutable. It is everywhere. It is fully around you and within you. Okay, that is, and it never changes. The ratio of the presence of God is fixed at complete wholeness all the time. So if you're not feeling it, it's because you're not attuned. It's not because God is not there. I can't stress that enough. That's something that people struggle with.
Yep.
Because they think that God would leave them. They think that they've done something wrong and God's, doesn't have any interest in them.
Well, they forget that very often God leads people into the wilderness, and that's not a punishment. It's not because you've done anything wrong. But there's before Christ began his ministry, he goes into the desert, into the wilderness.
Right.
He certainly wasn't being punished. It's that the wilderness experience is what God needs to use to form us at this particular moment in our lives.
Right.
And so, but also, I mean, you touched on, I know we're going to get to other questions, but you touched on that there are in fact different forms of prayer, all of which are necessary. So, you've got that contemplative, meditative, personal prayer, and then that switches into a corporate prayer, which is what the Mass is, which is structured and has a form, so that people can join in and participate as a number of people. And then, of course, the highest order of prayer is adoration.
Oh, yes.
Which you can do in various forms. I think I always am cautious of the sort of prayer elitism of saying, well, I have these wonderful, profound experiences every single time. Well, as somebody who has to pray the daily office, no. Sometimes it's work, right? Sometimes it's just a case of this is good for me, and so today it's medicine. Yeah. Tomorrow it might be a high, but today it's just medicine.
I think there's definitely sometimes a little bit of that elitism that sometimes can be like people think that they're special because they've had this encounter, and then they talk to maybe a few people like, well, I've never had anything like that. So they start to think, oh, wow, I must be really special. It's like, no, I mean, what might be special is just the fact that, you're attuning to it effectively, which is what we all should be striving to do. But it's not as though it's something that anybody can't achieve to. It's just whether or not people are putting the effort in, and whether or not, the conditions are right, that you found your niche and how this works. Spiritual life is a lot. I mean, I hate to say this because it sounds a little mechanical, but there's some truth to it. The spiritual life there's a little bit of talent there too. So it's just like in life, you got people that are really good at cooking, and then there are people that are not good at cooking at all. There's people that are really good at playing a musical instrument, some that are just completely tone deaf. Some can sing really well, some can't. But the fact is, everyone is really good at something, and everyone is really bad at a whole lot of things. And prayer, there's all these different ways to approach it. For I think that reason is that there are some people that excel in certain types of prayer, and certain ones they don't connect with at all. I've known people that just can't get into centering prayer. They've tried it, they just don't get it. For me, it's profound, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. The Mass isn't everyone's cup of tea. I don't understand. As a priest, I struggle to understand how a person can not connect with God at the Mass. But I know that there are people who don't. Even Catholics, even cradle Catholics, people that grew up with it, they just can't connect.
Priests.
Especially priests sometimes. I was actually asked that, talking about questions from the ether. I was asked about, priests that, I don't remember exactly how the question went, but it was something to the effect of, are there priests that are just going through the motions? Is this a common thing? And it's like, yeah, it's like, I think you even were involved in that conversation on the Nicholean network, Father. Yeah. And, we talked about how it's unfortunately far more common than people might even realize, is that, the priesthood's kind of a nice, cushy life, and sometimes people are looking at it as a career choice rather than a way of life, or the only
thing I'd say is it's better that they go through the motions than don't.
Yeah.
So the worst thing is if they just give up and stop. Because whether a priest is feeling it in the Mass or not, he still offers it.
Yeah, you still gotta go through it,
and that's a victory for God every single time. Mm-hmm. So I just think, I was the one of the bishops who I was fairly close to in my life used to charge the clergy to say, never get used to handling holy things.
Yeah.
And we all know what he means by that.
It can be a dangerous proposition, honestly, to become too casual and familiar,
complacent.
And it makes you complacent, but it's also, I think, in some degree, it becomes, if it becomes habitual, that's a problem. And because
I once had a sacristan who used to throw the vestments onto the, chuck them onto the vesting table. I thought, you're not going to last long with me, my friend. These are holy things. Yeah. No matter how over familiar or fed up you are with doing what you do, so I think, handling holy things with care, obviously the most holy things are the Blessed Sacrament. Yeah. Handling things with care. Yes, you have to handle them. I mean, I think you can go too far. Priests end up too scared to actually do their job, but
tell me about
but with reverence and respect, and never forgetting, the awe of that, really.
Well, I mean, there was a time where the church went through, I was reading about, the history of the Eucharist, and there was a time where the common opinion was that the priest was in the best position to receive, and he should receive for the entire community, and we're just not going to go up because we're just too sinful, or we're just too evil. And that completely misses the entire point of the Eucharist,
It's actually a form of sacrilege. It's a strange form of sacrilege.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
That saying, because it's pride. I mean, what you're saying is, I could never be good enough to receive Christ. Well, the answer to that is yes, that's true, but God has chosen to do it regardless.
Yeah.
And so saying there's nothing wrong with me, I don't need to go to confession ever, and I'll take communion, or saying I could never be good enough, therefore I won't take communion, are exercises in the same prideful self-deceit.
Agreed. Well, there you go, Brendan. I think that covers it, unless you have something else you want to add.
No, not really. I think both of you hit it. Just I can't add anything else to that in terms of that question.
Well, awesome. Okay, let's get to the next one then.
All right. This next question really goes out to someone else. It's one of my questions, but I'm asking it for them.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Would you be able to give an explanation on why Satanists don't worship Satan, which I know it's kind of ironic. The topic of the question goes from prayers to this. but would you be able to explain?
Well, that's
given
the
their
nature of
name?
this show. So we're well equipped with that, which is why you have all this craziness behind me. I'm sure it's going to get a lot
Looks
of.
good. Looks good.
I think so. I think it's going to get a lot of.
A little bit of everybody back
A
there.
little bit of everybody back
Looking
there.
good.
Yeah. But yes, we have Baphomet here for those Satanists that like that one. But no, the reality is that there's two types of Satanists. Okay, this is where it becomes confusing. There's theological Satanists, and these are ones that actually believe in the theological devil and worship the actual nemesis to the Christian faith. In the same way that Christians see the devil, they also recognize his existence in that way. That is a less common, rather, not lesser form, but a lesser common type of Satanism. The more pervading form of Satanism is a type of secular Satanism, where the word Satan was chosen for two reasons. One, it was to be provocative, and two, probably more so to be provocative, but two, they see in their philosophy a way that represents the worship of the self. And in a way, when you look at the theology of the devil, that's exactly what the devil personifies, is self worship. And I mean, because we're fallen nature, we have a propensity to do evil things. We're not really good objects to worship. But that's kind of the idea in Satanism, is that you have been controlled by the institutions of religion. You've been controlled by the mentality that has kept you from being able to live life the way you see fit, not the way an institution or some ancient book tells you, but only you are in a position to determine your the course of action for your life. And of course, most of these types of secular Satanists, if not all of them, are atheists or agnostic at best, but I don't know too many that would even admit to agnosticism. Most of them would just claim to be atheists. And so therefore, since there is there's no higher power in the universe that we need to live up to, there's no need for any kind of unnecessary morality, because these are not real things. They're just fictions, at least in their minds. That's how they see it. So why not live the way that you want to? So if you want to have sex with 5 women, why not? Because there's no God that's going to punish you. There's no hell. There's no heaven. You only have this life. Might as well enjoy it. If that's what you enjoy doing, then go and do it. Even if it's seen as immoral by the church, even better, because set the example that they can't control you. That's the mentality. And that is very satanic. Both forms are appropriately named. However, they get really, the secular Satanists get really antsy with you when you try to call them out for using the term Satanist or Satan. It's like, because I've actually told them, the Church of Satan used to attack me on Twitter when I was on Twitter. Right. They would come at me in droves, and I guess they thought that I was some kind of fun target, and they realized very quickly that I'm not that fun. They
effed around and found out.
Yeah, they did. And the reality is, look, hey, I don't give a shit what you do. If this is the way you want to go about living your life, I'm not going to stop you. I don't know what you're doing on my page. What are you doing here? Honestly, what?
Oh, because materialists, they can't help themselves.
They can't help themselves,
right?
Yeah.
Because you see, this is the weird thing about materialism. Look at the sort of climate alarmism and all the rest of it. It's generally coming from the atheist types. It's coming from materialists.
Yes.
That's a really kind of weird thing, because if you are a materialist, why on earth do you give a toss if the earth won't be here in 200 years?
Right,
if we're all just machines,
you're not going to be.
Things pass away, so what? And actually, this actually fleshes it out in real life. If you look at all of the people who've done the most about the sort of believing of suffering and about future thinking and about wanting to redeem God's creation, they have been religious people, not just Christians. but religious people who believe in, who are not merely materialists. Mm-hmm. And so the other thing that I think I'd never thought about this before, and I should have done. It's kind of obvious, but I was in a discussion last Friday night. We have a kind of group of prominent clergymen and others that meet quarterly in Australia, and we were talking about the phenomenon of some churches having plain windows at the back because they overlook, the woods or some beautiful scenery, and mm-hmm. isn't that nice? Mm-hmm. And he said the problem is that's fallen nature. Now think about that from a Judeo-Christian Islamic perspective. Even though we acknowledge the beauty of nature on occasion, we don't seem to like it when it means tigers eat gazelles. But anyway, because that's fallen nature. That's a reminder of fallen nature. So that's why nature worship is not okay for Christians, mm-hmm. because even no matter how beautiful, because of course, there is a sort of there's a reminder of Eden in creation that we see. That's what we find beautiful. That's what we love.
Yes.
Or admire is better way of putting it. Actually, everything we're looking at is fallen creation. And so it's weird that the materialists seem to want to return to Eden when they don't believe in Eden.
I think it's because it goes back to Joseph Campbell and what he said. And he firmly, he affirmed, I should say, that we are wired, regardless of how you see that wiring, whether you think it was intelligently designed to be this way or whether you think it was just an anomaly, that some random statistical happenstance occurred that made us this way. We are wired within our DNA to be religious.
Yeah.
We are wired for religion. We are wired for a worldview that has a belief or faith system attached to it. And when you take that away, it will find another way to manifest. The same reasons that we gravitate towards a particular action will still manifest in some form or fashion. And that's why you see people turning science into the new type of religion and the laws of physics being the new kind of God, because it is just the way that our nature is to believe in something and to affirm that. And also, I think we are wired to return to our perfected nature. And some people will, of course, see that as discovering. I was reading an article today that they're working on trying to see if we can cure aging. So that if we could get to a point where we could figure out how we could literally stop and reverse aging, then people could have a relative immortality. Relative because obviously you could never stop accidents. You could never stop people dying in murders, wars, but you could stop disease theoretically, and you could also stop people dying of old age, which would mean that as long as you avoid other ways to die, you could theoretically live forever.
Sounds terrible.
It does sound terrible. Absolutely.
It sounds like a plot for the Purge.
Take any risks,
right?
Well, that you would eventually get to a point. No, everyone would be too afraid to. But imagine if you could.
Part of living is about saying, "Well, I've got so long to fulfill God's will."
Yes.
For me in this life.
Yes.
Even if I've got so long, if you're a materialist, I've got so long to have as much fun as possible. Well, if you remove that factor of time, well, there's lots of sci-fi writings and films about this kind of concept.
Oh yeah.
If you remove that, then actually people become less free because they're less able or willing to take risks.
Yes.
Yes. Because you are the only one that can, in a sense, be responsible for your own death.
That's true. So, yeah. So Satanists are there's the secular form, which is the ones that don't believe in the actual as an actual being or entity, but they believe in the concept of what it represents archetypally. So in a sense, they believe in the archetype. Where they would differ with me is that we would both agree on the archetype and what the archetype represents. But we would disagree on whether or not that archetype has any sentience of its own. So I would say it's sentient, and they would say, no, it's not. does that answer it, Brandon, or did that open up a can of worms for you?
Did we go down a rabbit hole with that, or?
So yeah, you did open up a rabbit hole.
Okay.
And what was interesting, Father Chris, is when you talked about how the materialists, they not really worship, but they admire nature, and how we see it as a fallen world. To me, that kind of went back to one of your demonology episodes, talking about the horned god, where the idea of Christianity is to transcend, so to speak, the fallen world. So that's kind of where my mind went to on that. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, and that's where it interacts with politics, because that, you know, I would be a supporter. I'm confident to say that so is Bishop Brian, so is Jamie.
You glitched out there. You said you'd be a supporter of what? You glitched out on that one word.
The tragic vision.
Oh, okay.
That we have the tragic vision of life, which is to see the world as not perfect and not in a sense perfectible by us. The tragic vision accepts humanity as it really is, as opposed to a utopian vision of humanity, which is, you know, trying to design the perfect way to live. That's where it becomes political. But really, this is the philosophy and theology behind it. It's about whether one accepts the world is yes, created perfect by God, but then is damaged and fallen. Or, you know, if you're a materialist, you just think, well, we've just got to get the right heads together and have the right policies, and then we can make it perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. I think we have, unless there's more you want to go in that direction, we have 5 minutes before we are at the top of the hour, take our break, and then get to our topic tonight. We could maybe cover one more, Brandon, unless there's, more that you want to discuss here.
We have a lot more.
Okay. Well, let's take one and you can save the rest for next week.
All right. So this question comes from TikTok user Tannerloin.
Okay.
You actually had a good conversation with him a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
But his question is, have you ever had an exorcism calls for Solomonic practicing magicians? And what are the single most common causes for possession?
Okay, let me take the second. Let's take the second one first. The single primary cause of possession, I would say, is apathy, spiritual apathy.
Agreed.
I don't think there's really, I think that's the catch-all for just about every subgroup. So I would say it's very rare to find a person who is under a demonic attachment who is not spiritually apathetic. So it's when you start to let your spiritual life waver. You don't pray as much or at all. Church, you start to take on that I'm spiritual but not religious, because you have a bone to pick with the church, instead of being like, well, maybe you should stick around and make the church a better place, because it is about community. It's not about control. Contrary to popular opinion, the church is not about control. It's about liberation, and we do that together. We don't operate as individuals in that context. We operate as a community, and it's designed to be that way. It's how Christ set it up. So, but when you disregard that, and then you cut yourself off from the various graces that the church provides, then what you end up with is, vulnerability. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're not, you're going to develop an attachment. No, not at all. In fact, I would even argue that there's multiple ways that God can reach us, and this is where I think my syncretic background is helpful, because I would say that you don't necessarily have to be a Christian to get grace from spiritual practice, as long as you are doing whatever your chosen practice is sincerely and regularly, so that it's something that you're cultivating within your life. So if you are a Buddhist, this does not exempt you from grace just because you happen to be Buddhist. You can get a great deal of spiritual protection from those practices as long as you're actually applying them. Apathy in this context doesn't mean falling away from the church but doing something else. Apathy in this sense means doing absolutely nothing. You just watch TV all day. You just don't care. You don't think about God. You don't care about, philosophy means nothing. These leave you vulnerable, not necessarily, a definitive risk. It just means that there's a good chance that if you were to come in contact with something negative, that it's going to have an easy time with you, because you're not going to have any of those innate protections that things like the church has provided to make that possible. But that's the number one reason. Now there's other things, sinful life, but that's also a type of apathy, isn't it? There's dabbling in occult things that you don't understand. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily apathy, but it's misplaced direct focus. I mean, instead of focusing on God, you're focusing on power seeking. That can be problematic. So these are things that we look for and things that we tend to uncover in the course of our investigations when we're trying to get to the bottom of how these things happen. So that answers the second part of the question. First part of the question with Abrahamic ceremonial magic. There are types of entities we encounter that are not fallen angels that don't necessarily respond as effectively to the rites of exorcism within the church, because they are operating from a different model than the ones that we normally would see. And I have found, when dealing with those types of entities, which are typically high-level elementals, that ceremonial magic and occult ritual is sometimes more effective at working and getting rid of those. Not that the rites of exorcism can't work, it's just you have to be much more clever and skillful at applying them in order to get the same result, whereas using ceremonial magic might actually get it resolved far more quickly. One example of this would be the jinn.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're talking about the jinn.
We have, in fact, I will, during the break, I'll go get it so you guys can see it on YouTube. For those of you watching on YouTube, I'll go see. I've never shown this to anyone. No one's ever seen this except this small little group that I work with. We have something, I've talked about it, called the demon trap. Okay, and what it does is it utilizes a triangle of art as a portable triangle of art with an affixed black mirror that can absorb these entities. And when you apply them a certain way, again, using occult ritual and making sure you've got the right application, you can actually collect these things and eradicate them much more effectively than trying to go through the traditional route of holy water and exorcisms. Okay, not to suggest that those things can't work. It's just they're not the most effective when dealing with those things, because those things are not truly evil. Okay, the jinn are not truly evil. Right. They're like us. We're not truly evil. We're neutral forces because we do a lot of good and we do a lot of bad. And we've got proclivities that are fallen, and there are elementals in the world, probably as the result also of the fall, just as animals now die. I mean, animals didn't participate, other than you could say the serpent, but that's another story. Animals didn't participate in the fall of man, but they suffered the consequences along with us.
We kind of screwed them over, didn't we?
Because they die now with us too. Okay, and when all things that are supposed to live are by virtue of life, everything's eternal. It's supposed to be always eternal. But as you go on into the realm of understanding how this breaks down, the incorporeal creatures like the elementals seem to have fallen with us and taken on some of the same consequences. And these high level, very intelligent creatures don't necessarily respond to the models, but they do understand the occult language, and that can be a more effective way. Anyway, we are now at the top of the hour. We're going to take our break here, and when we come back, we will have Regan Forston talking about handwriting analysis and looking at our handwriting and looking at yours as well. So don't go away. Thank you, Father Chris, and thank you, Brandon. We'll see you next week, okay?
See you next week.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
light, you are my lucky charm. I hold you close in the night in my arms. And when we open our eyes, my worries fade away. 'Cause you gave me your heart in the light of day, in the light of day. And when we open our eyes, my worries fade away. 'Cause you gave me your heart in the light of day, in the light of day. Sweet delight, you are my lucky charm. I hold you close in the night in my arms. And when we open our eyes, my worries fade away. 'Cause you gave me your heart in the light of day. Sweet delight, you are my lucky charm. I hold you close in the night in my arms. And when we open our eyes, my worries fade away. 'Cause you gave me your heart in the light of day, the light of day. Sweet delight, you are my lucky charm. I hold you close in the night in my arms. And when we open our eyes, my worries fade away. 'Cause you gave me your heart in the light of day. Oh, oh.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second half of Vestiges After Dark. We are getting ready now to begin our topic tonight, handwriting analysis with Regan Forston. He's going to be looking at our little writings that he had us do. We also have the demon trap to show you. It's not on screen yet. We'll show it to him. Yeah, interesting 2 hours coming up. Don't go away. Welcome back, everybody, and sorry that break took longer than expected. I mean, it's like clockwork.
Got gremlins in the system.
I'm telling you, as soon as we resolve one problem, something else happens. For some reason, during the break, the camera gave out, and I couldn't get it back. And I tried everything, so I had to reset the whole system, hoping that I wasn't going to lose the show. It is just the way it goes. Probably because I went and got this thing. Okay, so this is the demon trap. I did. I woke it up. Let me actually zoom in a little bit for you here. I'm going to try to make it so you can see it a little bit better. If it will
hold it while you mess around.
No, it should. No, I can do it.
Okay.
If it will actually let me. Let's just try this one. There we go.
Whoa.
All right. So here it is. This is the demon trap. Okay. And it was created by custom, my specifications. We had a team member who was very talented and was able to create this for me. And so if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this now. And I'm only going to show it briefly because a lot of people get dizzy when they see it,
yeah.
honestly. But that is a black mirror in the center. And you can see it is a portable triangle of art. And it is what we use for capturing. You can go put that away now. It's what we use for capturing various entities that don't respond necessarily as effectively as fallen angels to the rites of exorcism. Now, like I said, there's not many that are like that. Not really. I mean, most of the time, the standard. The standard work of the church is sufficient. But every now and then, like a jinn, something very intelligent will get in the way. And, we need something with a different model. That's what makes our approach to this work so different, because we're willing to work with other models, which is sometimes necessary. Well, I apologize again. We're trying to make sure that there's nothing crazy going on here, because I don't want to interrupt anything from our wonderful topic here tonight. So let's go ahead. We don't even need to introduce this wonderful man. We got Regan Forston here. He's been a regular guest on this show, and we love having him. And anytime he wants to come on, he's one of the few that has an open invite. So, and he's actually going to come on again later on in the season.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So
sweet.
Welcome back to Vestiges,
Hey,
Regan. How you doing?
It's funny how time
see
flies,
you.
because it seemed like it was going to be forever before I was going to be on your show again, that time, but here we are.
And man,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's like
Great
time
to see
travel
you
out
again.
there. Every
And
year
this is
gets
good, because what we're talking about tonight is a really fun topic, and it has I tie it into a spiritual sense, and it's that we think we're private people and everything, but so many things that we do exposes who we really are. It's like we almost can't hide from ourselves.
Right.
There's so many things that they give us away,
Yeah.
And a lot of times we pick up these kind of things subconsciously about people, like you're around people sometimes and you just get a funny feeling like, I don't know if I could trust that person,
Right.
Oh, yes.
There's different ways, that people, it's like they try to hide, but they can't. Well, the history of this handwriting thing goes back hundreds of years. It wasn't called, it began to be called graphology back in the late 1800s, like 1887 or something. Somebody finally called what we do graphology. Before then, it was kind of known that they didn't really have a name for it or anything. And it was considered pseudoscience, and some scientists still think it's pseudoscience, but there's so much proof and the results are the same, and they seem to be very right on so much of the time that most of the scientific community now is figuring that it's science. Universities are actually teaching this now. The University of Santa Barbara, the teacher there actually, for people that want to study this further after tonight, there's a couple hundred books that have been written about handwriting, so it's really out there for people that want to study it. But this is the one that's kind of like the Bible.
Okay.
You see that right there?
Yeah.
Look how thick that thing is. It's like, woo.
I mean, that looks like there's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it, yeah.
Things been used a little bit.
Yeah, and the teacher that does this, here's how easy to recognize things when you know what you're looking for, or someone asks you a question about someone's handwriting. When her students come on the first day of class, she gives them their final, and she says all she does is show different sorts of writing and ask questions about it.
Right.
And then people look at it and they make just a judgment. Well, like, okay, which babysitter's on drugs? They show two handwriting, that kind of thing. Things like which they'll show a person's writing. Well, here's an example right here, just to give people an example. Now, this is two different people writing basically the same thing. And if one negative thing doesn't mean someone's dishonest or something, but you look for if you can find 5 red flags in a person's writing, then you could pretty much say you might not be able to trust this person.
Right.
But if you just look at the writing of these two, which one, number 1 or number 2, do you think would be more likely to cheat you?
2.
Yeah, 2.
Exactly, because you can't really read it clear, right? In other words, the other one.
Well, we're in trouble, Bishop.
We're in trouble.
Okay. Now, here's another one of those things like that I had here. There was, and this is just knowing just a little bit. Like, there was this case where there was several $1,000s missing from a company when they audited it, and 7 people had access to the money. So they called them all in, and they all had them. They had a handwriting person there and the sheriff, and they all had them write a simple sentence, and it was just say, "I did not steal from the store." That's all they had to write. I did not steal from the store. Well, the person looking at it, okay. Now, I did not steal from the store. I did not steal from the store. Okay, both the same sentence or something. You notice a little bit of difference. It's pretty obvious. Of course, I know what to look for. But look at the space between.
I was about to say the space is hesitation.
The person that wrote the first one didn't have to think about it.
Yeah, hesitation.
On the bottom had a moment of hesitation, but his hand kept going.
Interesting.
See,
okay.
I did not have to, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail, steal from the store.
Yeah.
So it was that's how they logged in. They found the guy and ended up going to jail. Isn't that weird?
That's very strange. I mean, it's, yeah.
So and there's just things that or like a detective can kind of look and just like a Columbo kind of thing and just notice differences in things.
Yeah.
And tell that way. So I had, I think I had 11 people. Woo! I was printing on the printer.
Oh,
going through this. But I figured a way, I think that it will be justice to everybody.
Well, I didn't send you ours. I figured I could just show them to you through the camera. Would that work, or do you want the actual copy?
Yeah, well, here's what I think we can do. I've done this before when I've done a class on this, and everybody writes it. And since, like normally if I had, each person's writing, I would spend about a half an hour going through it, and before I would write about 14 to 20 things about it.
Right.
But I found a way here to do it, and everybody can get a pen and they can look at their writing, and I'll tell them what to look for. For instance, a lot of the things people can just write this about themselves. And so I wrote down here like 17 things. We could go through them pretty quick. And I'll tell, as we go down through them, people can mark and see if they have or don't have this particular thing. So let's start with the size of the writing, okay? Now,
I don't know if it would even show up on there.
Yeah, it'll show up.
Well, what I can do is I could actually do this. I'm just curious. I'm gonna change this view. And this is really daring, considering that. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is mine, and
okay.
Regan, can you see that? Okay, is that good?
I can see half of it. I can see the move it. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is, because when you talk, it's going to put your camera, it's going to put your face on. So let me see if I can set it for just mine.
Yeah.
I've never had to do this before.
Well, no, that's great. I can see it.
Okay.
I can see it really great.
Okay. So as long as you can see it, I guess that's what matters.
Well, the first thing that we look at is the size of the writing. Now, I'm going to show you the two extremes here. And one of these, I swear, was from one of my clients. Okay. Okay. Like that
Tiny,
sentence.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Look at
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, you almost can't read it. It's so tiny. Now, if I just ask you the question here, like on the final test, which one of these two people likes to be seen when they walk in the room?
Yeah.
Well, obviously
Right?
the bottom. Yeah.
It's obvious, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's how silly and how a lot of with graphology, for instance, if you had applicants for your company and you were looking for people in research and development or salespeople, which one would make the best researcher? Probably the one with the little writing or the big writing.
Oh, the little. Yeah.
Right. We found that people like Einstein wrote like that. Okay. People that have little tiny writing like that, they're able to go really deep into a project. They go down to the micro level. Mm-hmm. Like this guy up here, you don't put him in a room where he's got to look at a computer 8 hours a day. He's going to go nuts. He wants to be out mingling with people. He wants to be when he walks in, he wants everybody to go, say, "Hey, Bill, how you doing?"
Yeah.
Kind of, so big writing usually denotes more extrovertness. Okay. So those are pretty obvious things. I mean, so you're looking there, but that's important for companies to know, because you don't want to put the wrong person in the wrong job. Matter of fact, just to give you some things there, 5,000 corporations in the U.S. use 5,000 corporations in America regularly use handwriting in venting who they're going to hire and for what positions, because they know the basics of this. Okay. And so if any of you are out there and you're going to go to work for a company and they say, "Hey, by the way, on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with no borders, we want you to write a page about why you want to work for us." Okay. They don't really care what you say. They're going to take a look at it. And the first thing that they want to do is to find out, okay, is this person outgoing? Is this person, is this person maybe just can be happy at a desk job or doesn't want to be seen? Okay, maybe they're better in development and one person's better at salespersons. The other thing that they want to see is if they're team players. Now, all of you that look at your writing, at the end of words, okay. I'll just put AND here as a word.
Okay.
If you have, you see that big whoop
Yeah.
on the end of the D there?
Uh-huh.
We call those garlands. Those are like handshakes.
Okay.
And people that, if they notice like a lot of garlands on the end of your words, they kind of swoop up a little bit like that.
Uh-huh.
They just know, you're a friendly person. That just people.
I'm a bitch.
It's like, hi
None
there,
of us have it. This is
But
Tracy.
you just,
this is my wife Tracy's. She doesn't have that at the end.
yeah, well, that doesn't mean she's not friendly.
Well, she
It
might
just
not be
means
the
that-
most friendly person in the world. She can be friendly.
It just means those people are more apt to be more out front about it, and be that way. Okay.
This is Jamie's right here, and she doesn't have it either.
Okay. Now, the next thing we want to, so if anybody has those, now some of these things I'm going to see, but I don't want to get off track and mention that. When you look at the M's and the N's,
Okay.
and everybody watching now, when you look for the M's and the N's, if your M's and N's are more round,
No.
you see, and there's another M, you see how it was kind of pointy in that? Okay. They can actually measure the amount of extrovertness you have by, they even have a thing where they'll measure the distance between the loops there. But the ones that are more roundy, generally speaking, some of this is not all the time, but generally speaking, that you're going to find them to be a little bit more extroverted. The one that's got the more pointy in the writing and that tend to be, somewhat less, they could be half introvert, half extrovert, or more towards the side of being introvert. So that's just another.
That's
another
interesting.
sign.
So we're basically all introverts over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because all of us have, this is my wife's trait. She's got the more pointy style. Well, she's a little bit of both, but
She's got that swirl going
But
on.
she's
like
got the
mine.
swirl, and mine is also more of the pointy style, and yours is
Mine's
too
like,
as well,
mine's
right?
like an EKG.
Let me
Yeah.
see. Let's show the
Yeah,
audience
but
here.
you'll see some people's, their M's are completely round,
Right.
over that way. Yeah. And generally speaking, introverts, their Y's at the end of a word, the Y's, they go down and they don't go all the way back up to the, they don't go all the way back up to the top. They
yeah,
usually
mine
go
goes
down or go down a little bit up. So if you see someone who the Y's go down and they have the M's that are a little pointy and a little roundy, that means that they're not, they're not super extrovert. They could be somewhere in between. Looking at yours and both of yours right there, it looks like if you're going into a karaoke bar, you two aren't the first to run and jump up and want to sing in front of everybody.
No, I
pretty
need a few drinks first because I have done that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. A couple of drinks and you can get up there.
Yes.
Because that's like, I would say the majority of people were somewhere in between, we're maybe 60-40, either introvert, extrovert, something like that. And actually, it's healthy to be in the middle somewhere because that means that you can kind of wear both hats a little bit.
Right. Right.
Because some people are just always on, and they just always have to be in the spotlight. And other people, when they come into work, their heads down. They don't want anybody to notice them.
Right.
I learned that the hard way when I was doing corporate roast as a ventriloquist for years when I was first starting out. And I would have them give me a questionnaire of the people working there. And one of the things I would ask is, okay, who do you guys kind of poke fun as being like the dullest person in the company, And that was actually just that was actually just going to be a through joke to get to the real joke I wanted. Well, I didn't realize at first I shouldn't have never asked that question.
Yeah.
Because, and one of the ones I'm doing this corporate thing, and then when I was kind of getting started, the joke was, because I got my Andy Friendly, he's my little wooden little guy, he's a really cute little guy, and of course it slips out. He works for the company, he's one of the new persons in the company, and then. I asked him, I said, well, wait a minute, you're a dummy, right? And how did you go to work for this company? And he says, well, I'm the illegitimate son of the VP, so that's how he got to work there. So And he says, I said, have you gone around to meet the guys and everything? And he says, well, I met so and so. And then I said, well, how do you like him? And he says, gosh, he's the dullest guy I ever met. Okay, well, then they're supposed to get some laughter there. But the joke is, then he looks over at Bob so-and-so and says, don't laugh, Bob, you came in second, So
Wow.
that's where the real joke is,
Yeah.
But anyway, I got a letter in the mail and they said, Regan, we had so much fun at the thing, but so-and-so that you made a joke about being dull is just got a lawyer and suing us.
Oh my,
Oh,
my goodness.
what a poor
And
sport.
I can see him in court, and he says, "This dummy here called you dull, and so you want to sue."
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
It's funny.
Poor
but-
baby.
So anyway,
Wow.
So now the next thing that I want people doing the writing, when you look at your writing, and that's why we don't have any lines on the. We want it to be blank paper. We don't want you to be following the lines. We want to see if it naturally does it slant upwards, does it go straight across, or does it go down?
Straight across.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm going to show it to you again, Regan. I mean, this one could go either way for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mine kind of, I guess, ever so slightly goes upward, but it's mostly straight.
Well, yours is mostly straight. It's a little what we call roller coastery.
Yes.
Like if you do a straight line under there.
Yes.
Now that's what we call that. We do that too because that's the mood line.
Okay.
That shows that during the day you've got your, the best time when your wife can talk to you and the time when she just says, not now.
That's true.
Yeah. Now, if it was severe, it could be like bipolar, or it could be really big mood swings. Because I've seen some writing, and it's like boom, up and down, up and down. So yours is within the normal range,
Okay.
of
I'd say
that.
mine is too.
My Tracy's is very straight.
Yeah. So okay, that means that if I was going to hire her, I would say that when I see her in the morning and say, hey, nice to have you here today. And I see her in the afternoon. Hey, nice to have you here and that. I'm going to get the same response. She's going to be pretty even keel throughout the day. In other words, she's pretty in control of her moods.
I think
that way.
mine slightly goes down, just ever
Okay.
so slightly.
Okay. Now, we don't measure these by degrees, but if someone's handwriting has a tendency to go up, this is a person that usually will generally be very optimistic, looking at the glass half full kind of all the time. Now, in companies, they need both. They need both kinds. They need the kind that go up and need the kind that go down, because the ones that go up, they're just like, hey, whatever happens, it's going to be great, But they got to have someone say, wait a minute.
So you're the slightly pessimistic one.
I
I'm
am
the
slightly. I'm also
slightly-
left-handed, Regan. Does that have anything to do with it, being left-handed?
No,
Okay.
not if you're left-handed or right-handed. That's
Okay.
one thing that I always wondered about, but it comes out the same that way. Okay.
All right.
So
Yes,
you're,
I am
you're,
slightly.
you're slightly pessimistic.
I am slightly
I'm
pessimistic,
slightly
damn it.
optimistic, and Tracy is the one that keeps us, I guess, on the
She's the
middle
glue.
path. Yeah,
She's the
That
glue.
makes for a good relationship.
there you go.
Keeps you from going off the rails. That way.
You don't know how true that is.
That's true.
All right. Now the next thing is the crossing of the T's.
Okay.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay.
When you let me see yours. Again, put it up there.
Yeah. Let me put it back up.
Let's see.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
thank you both for doing that.
No, thank you for doing it.
This is cool.
This is actually really cool
Yeah.
to see. So I've got different kinds of teas here, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, okay. The one T that you have that's with the things, you see, like it looks like a tent. It's like a tent, and then you got it crossed up that way.
Yes.
The wider that is, it shows you have that your part of your personality could somewhat be stubborn sometimes.
Well, I've got a big old tent.
Okay, I think I got it on that one, didn't I?
Yeah.
Mine's
true.
like that too. I was stubborn. Okay, but
Yeah.
here's the thing: when you cross your T's, when to show this is the T crossing is your confidence and self-esteem. Okay, when the T is crossed above the middle and it slants upwards, that's a sign of good self-esteem and confidence. Okay, when they're all over the place, what does that mean? That just means that some days you're really confident, some days you're having a tough day. Because some people are consistent. It's just every T is that way, and others are that way. If the slant goes down and it's below the middle, that's a person sometimes that's kind of down on themselves a bit, a little bit down. So if someone was going to hire somebody and all the T's were down and everything like that, it would be a red flag, thinking, this person we might need to really, they might have some issues going on here, that we might have to deal with, calling in sick, and emotional and all that kind of stuff.
So it looks like Tracy's is they're all pretty much the same, unlike mine.
Yeah.
They're pretty straight.
Those are good. That's good self-esteem and confidence.
I'm apparently stubborn and have good days and bad. That's
Yeah,
what I'm getting out of that.
Now, look at
So this is
40
James.
things like the FORTY. See how that T, that's a great one for self-esteem. See how that goes up like a spear? Mm-hmm. Notice how it's thick on one end and it's like pointy on the other?
Uh-huh.
Can you see that on the T? Like if it's, it's like a spear, because it's thick on one end, and as you cross it, it goes to a point. When they come out pointy like that, that also shows that your sense of humor, there's two types of sense of humor. One is like pie in the face, clowny, haha. And the other one's more sarcastic sense of humor.
Oh, I'm a
The
sarcastic,
pointy one
you know what?
It's sarcastic, yes.
Yeah, that would be
it's
me.
Like, gotcha, It's like political humor, it's just a little thing, but it's people that do that and have that. Yeah.
So
you're both
question
that way.
on mine. So so you can see in my handwriting, the T is crossed all the way at the top, and then we'll tell the T is looped around by the L, and then you can see, and some of the other ones are in the middle.
You're bipolar, Bishop.
I guess so.
No, it just means you're not just all one way.
That's very
all.
true.
It's not a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, okay.
Now, sometimes it's interesting. Now, I'm just looking at it since it says will tell. For whatever reason, you decided to put an umbrella over that, like it's an important word. It could almost be like pointing,
Yeah.
my handwriting will tell, will tell, kind of
Interesting.
thing. When we also too, because I'm hoping we have time to do this.
Yeah.
There in the handwriting, when you're writing your regular handwriting is coming from this. That's what we don't have in print, because printing comes from the left side of the brain. Mm-hmm. That's where a lot of people. That's your analytical side of the brain. When you're writing in cursive, it comes from the creative side of the brain, the right side of the brain, and that will show your personality. Now,
interesting.
That's why cursive.
Okay.
On the signature, we'll get to that at the end. In the signature, it's kind of half and half, because most people have thought about their signature. They've kind of designed it. They've tried it different ways. And it's a subconscious way of trying to have people see you how you want them to see you. It doesn't necessarily, we don't give it as much input as far as that being your true self, because a lot of people design their signatures. And when we get into that, I'll do that. So we're going to do the body of the work first as we go through all the letters and things, and then at the end we'll have some fun. It's really fun because I can show everybody how to do the best signature that they can, so that when people, like if they're writing a letter to a corporation or somebody and it's a real important document and they think about how they're going to sign their signature, that person's subconscious will pick up really good things about them, okay?
Right.
And not pick up subconsciously negative things about them. It's really interesting. Okay, so we got through the T's. Now, the other thing is spacing. There's 3 types of spacing. That's the space that you give between letters, okay? The space between words. In other words, you crowd the words and they're right up against each other. And then the space that's between sentences. Because some people, the sentences are so this way that they intermingle with the sentence, with the people above. I'll tell you, this is something that's really important for people that want to be as successful as they can, that want to open up their minds to all possibilities so they have a better chance of success. And that's space, okay? Mm-hmm. Most people are pretty good at giving the space between letters is the space you give yourself. Okay. The space between words is the space you give to other people. Okay?
I mean,
and the space between sentences is the space you give to the rest of the world, okay? Now, what they found out by getting handwritings from some of the most successful business people in the world, most of the ones that had the most success that were really high up there had the big three. In other words, they had good space between letters, good space between words, and they just gave lots of space between sentences. Think of it this way, okay? Now, I'll use this as a physical thing here. If we don't give ourselves good space, see how I'm getting kind of crowded like this, okay?
Right.
Like this.
Right.
Don't give others very good space, and to hell with everybody else. We're walking around like this, you know.
Yeah.
But if we give ourselves space, we give you space, and the world. Okay, what that means is that people, the guy that's like this, that has the same problems as the guy like this, you know, guess who's going to be have his mind open to more avenues, to more possibility. Okay, it's the guy that's like this, that's just wide open. Now, here's what the graphologists say, and this is kind of cool, but I don't know how human beings, how we are this way. They have proven that if you, like, for instance, your self-esteem is a little down, you can practice crossing your T's and talking to yourself as you cross the T's, and they found that people have actually changed from being more pessimistic to being more optimistic, you know, in general.
Right.
So, in other words, let's see, I'll do it on this. So here's this, because self-esteem and confidence, we all want that, okay? You could be at a restaurant and just have a napkin there and you're waiting for the waitress to come. You could practice a little something. So you just make a bunch of see, I just made 4. There's the stem, okay?
Okay.
Just do those. Now, as you cross it, what you want to say to yourself in self is like this. I'm just practicing that I'm doing this at a restaurant. Of course, at a restaurant, I'm doing it on the inside. It would be but this is what's going on the inside. As I cross the T above the middle, slanted upwards, I go, oh man, I feel so confident about myself. I just love my upbeat nature. Oh my God, I love myself. I'm just so confident. I just love it. I love it, you know. And as you just do these, cross it up that way. Even just doing that is a good exercise just to make you feel good. Okay?
Interesting.
Just telling yourself too helps.
It's a good way of doing that. So with this, people that are struggling with success, if they're having all these roadblocks and come in, they could be watching TV. Just write a bunch of, write a letter to somebody or something. Give yourself, and consciously give your good, A and D, and not A and D, and then give it some space. You have to think about it because your old self is going to want to put it right where it was. You have to think about it. Give space between that, even exaggerate a little bit. Okay. Then when you get to the next sentence, instead of it being where you normally would, move it down. And people have a hard time doing that. They go, I want to move it down, but I can't, because they're so used that way. But you kind of force yourself to do that, open up those things, and it's going to get you to start being able to see more of the bigger picture, so that you can get through these roadblocks that we all have. Okay?
Yeah, right.
So that spacing is a big thing. Okay?
I would say the three of us are pretty even.
I would say
we don't give ourselves a lot of space. We give other people plenty of space, and the world can kiss our ass. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm saying.
I'm definitely seeing it with Tracy's here. Let me bring this one back up here on the screen real quick here. But she's got this nice big space at the top there.
Oh, yeah. That's good space between words. You can see each letter. See, some people scrunch their letters so close together in a thing that you can't tell where one starts. So
Guilty.
I would say you've got 2.5 of the 3. Okay. All you need to do is leave a little more space between each sentence, like move it down just a little bit.
A little bit. So that was Tracy's. Here's mine.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yours is good. So like if you were going to go to work for a company, I would say, both of you, like when you come into work, you're going to be, people that will give other people space, and the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to have one line entangle with the line above it.
Okay.
Well,
Now,
we'll get on
that is common with some people. What that shows is we call it tangled thoughts.
Okay.
Can you see how that would be? I mean, you just picture that, some of the line below there, that F of the 40 is going through above and the will above, that just shows a person's mind is it could be that they're just confused about something. It means they're going through a hard time. They can't figure things out. But definitely, if you were going to hire somebody and it's a red flag, if people are that way. Oh, now.
It would be a red flag to hire me. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now here's someone that came in. Now you see how.
Oh, okay. So this is one of our audience members?
Yes.
Yeah. Look how much space between words there.
Oh, yeah.
And this is great. All they need to do, they give such good space to themselves. They give, in other words, they're just like, give their friends and everybody space, and all that person needs to do is just give a little more space between the lines, and then they'll have the big three. So they got 2 out of 3 right there. But that's a good example of space between words right there.
Huh.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, margins. Okay.
Right.
The reason, again, we have no lines and everything on the paper, we want to see where you start the line, and if you go all the way over to the edge,
No.
or do you leave space, on either side? Let me see. Hold yours up again. Let me see
Sure.
how you guys started on your margins.
All right. So here's mine. So mine starts, and then I keep moving over a little bit, it seems.
Okay, move over the other. Yeah, move it to one side so I can see where your margin starts on. That's excellent.
That's good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the margin on the left again is space to self again, like the like the other space we were talking about, and on the other side it's space to others. So again, I would say you give good space to yourself and to others. Now, if people out there, if the writing that you sent me goes all the way to the right, right off, like it's going off the page a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time what that means is those people like to have things done their way. In other words, when they walk into a room, you might feel a little bit like, ooh, here comes the boss.
Right.
Better get it done their way, that way. It could be something as simple as when someone grew up, they had these long letters. They wanted to make sure they could get all the letters in. Okay. But if you look at the margin all the way down and it's pretty much over there, sometimes those people are perceived sometimes as being a little pushy.
Okay.
Okay.
We got good margins, I think. I think all of us.
Yeah, you have good margins. Now,
Yeah.
I did have one here that had beautiful margins.
Okay.
Well, those that you have are beautiful, but this one here, I'm going to cover the signature for you. You can't read it, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Can you read? Okay. Now, see how much space on both sides, and from the top even. Okay. This person in the office would probably be the last person that would want to start an argument. Okay. Because they have pushed themselves this way and this way and this way to get away from confrontation. Okay.
Right.
So that's just a sign of don't worry about me. I'm not going to start a fight. Okay. So, you're not going to have to worry about that person being a bully in the office. Okay.
Right.
So that's good. Okay. Now, look at and see on your eyes.
Okay.
Did you dot your eyes? I was shocked to find out how many people don't even dot their eyes.
I do.
I did.
Okay.
Well, not everyone. There's a few that become part of the word. So sometimes I use
I do the same
the
thing.
letters.
They all just get gushed together.
Yeah, but I mean, this one on will.
Most of them are dotted.
Definitely. If you look at my will,
Let me see.
it's definitely got the I on there.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Now, when the I dot is to the left, instead of right, because we know it goes right on top, right? But yours is kind of to the left a little bit.
Yep.
That's a sign that you are a bit of a procrastinator. And if they're generally that way, and I was your boss, I might have to every once in a while come in and say, hey, are you on that project? Come on, we got to get that done by Tuesday. Okay, kind of thing.
So that must be an anomaly because I'm not. I'm actually the opposite of a procrastinator. But when you look at all the other eyes, they're really just, as you can see, they're all kind of like dotted by another letter.
Well, the things that's right on, yeah. So I wouldn't say that about you unless they were all that way.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, okay.
Yeah. That's with this thing sometimes because sometimes the way words are, the way that where the eye is in there, and what comes before it and after. Now, generally speaking, for people that dot their eyes to the right of the eye, okay. These people are generally, we would consider in a hurry to get things done. These are doers, because they know that the dot goes over the top of the eye, but in their mind, they're going, I'm not going all the way back there. I'm moving forward. It's just, it's on the other side. I'm going.
Basically, you're right above.
Yeah. Yeah. So if everybody's is exactly right above all the time, that's a person that pays very good attention to detail.
That's Tracy. Okay? Tracy's are perfectly above. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
mostly are mine.
Here's this story. We had a case where this auditing company was trying to hire 2 auditors. They just love these 2 guys. Their personalities were great. Their credentials and everything were really great. And they had them do a handwriting sample. Well, the guy that they were kind of favoring missed a whole bunch of his eyes. He didn't have them crossed. Okay. So guess who got the auditing job? The other guy. Because right. You get a dot in the wrong place, or you forget to put a dot somewhere, right? Right. Okay. So that's how important and how some of these things could be, Say, hey, we like the guy, but he doesn't pay real good attention to small details. But maybe we can use him, as a sales rep or something, that way.
And see, that makes sense with what I'm doing here, because I can be detailed oriented, but it's not my natural state. I have to work or really actually prioritize that in my mind in order to be able to do that, because my natural state is to basically walk through mostly oblivious to things like that. I mean, honestly, I really, unless I have to, I try to avoid details. So, but I'm very good at it when I apply it, but I have to actually apply it. It's not natural for me to do so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, let me show you the writing of somebody here.
Okay.
I'm going to just show you the top part right here. And, okay, the image, I want you just to see what image, if this person were to walk in the room, how do you think this person would make you smile, frown, or whatever, okay?
Okay.
It's not about the writing so much. Just take the
That's definitely a smile. Yeah, no, I would say that looks like a very happy person.
Very whimsical, very happy person.
Yeah.
Whimsical, right?
Yeah, whimsical.
Fairy-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look at the up above, the little drawing and things like this. So this is a person that walks around, in I was going to say in fairyland,
Very whimsical, very fairy. I said fairy, yeah.
Happy, yeah. I bet this person is just a blast to be around, But it's also a person that wants to be seen, okay? Wants to be noticed, okay? Wants to stand out from everybody, and it shows a very artistic, quality, that they have. One thing that I wanted to mention here that I found in a number of people's writing, it's an unusual, but I think 3 people here had it.
Oh, okay.
It's what we call the writer's R.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's an R like in the words. It has like a plateau. Most people do not do their R's like that. So you people watching this sent me your writing. If you have that flat R, that you may not be using this talent, but they found that so many writers in history that were some of the best writers that we've had that get all the acclaim, they have that writer's R, that we don't know why that is, but something about they have a kind of a flat, it's like a plateau R that way. So we call it the writer's R.
Oh, look.
So,
some of mine are that way, but they're a little weak. But Tracy's are very much that. I mean, every single one of them
I've
has
got one like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what that means is you may have the ability that some people don't have by expressing yourself through the written word, okay, through poetry or writing. You know how I saw that the movie about, it just came out on Netflix, and it was about the famous writer Wolfe, Thomas Wolfe.
Okay.
I was going to say Virginia.
His relationship with the editor in New York City. True story, you know, and it Genius. I think it's called Genius for people out there to watch it. And it's Robert Wolfe was an enigma, you know. I mean, he would write 100 pages a day of stuff. Right. You know, when he came in with 7,000 pages like of a book, and they had to spend 2 years to whittle it down. So, and it was still, you know, 300 or 400 pages. I don't know, it was crazy. But anyway, it's a good book. But he was, you know, a good writer. Okay, so I didn't want to forget about that writers are, because when I saw that, I went, wow, a lot of your listeners are. We got some intellectuals or writers.
Well, that doesn't surprise me with this audience here. I mean, honestly, I think we have a lot of students here, and they probably were the ones that submitted, I think, or at least I would imagine many of my students did. Well, let's break right here at the top of the hour, Regan, and
we're getting through it.
We're getting through it. We'll come back and continue to look through more of them here. And if you want to call in and talk directly, if you submitted something, want to talk to Regan directly, feel free to call in. We'll put the number up on the screen when we come back here. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone, to the third and final part of Vestiges After Dark. We are talking with Regan Forston. He is a member of the Newton Institute's mission to uncover the mysteries of the afterlife. But as you can see, his studies extend far beyond even that. And so he's always such a fascinating guest to have on. And I can see from the commentary in the chat that you all are enthralled, which is fantastic. What a great way to start off the season, right? Well, we're going to come back here in just a moment and continue with our analysis here and hopefully take some calls. The number to call is 718-362-6380. That's 718-362-6380. Enter PIN number 855-4111 to get into the queue, and we'll take you on the air. Don't go away. You know, Joy Keeling in the chat room made a very interesting observation and comment that I thought I'd want to mention to you and see what your thoughts are, Regan, on this. But cursive's not being taught anymore. So do you think this is something that's going to be obsolete soon?
I think about that often, you know, when I hear that. I you know, of course, times change, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, so apparently God's got a reason for this, you know. But, you know, I guess that's the easy thing to say.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, people will still be who they are.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that, you know, if everybody's printing, they can just hide a little bit more you know, of who they are. Which is kind of funny because that's kind of what we're doing with all this texting instead of personal one-on-ones. Is we're kind of hiding behind this little, you know.
Yeah, everybody's become anonymous.
Yeah.
So, you know, it'll be, I'm sure if it goes by the wayside, I'm thinking even for people, are people just going to have to print their signatures if they don't know how to do cursive, at least to do their signature? And how's that look? It's kind of changed anyway with, you know, e-sign and, you know, just have the computer give you a signature. You know?
It's like when I pay for something with my phone, if I use Apple Pay, it uses my face.
Wow.
That's my signature. I mean,
that's your signature.
Yeah. So I think that's the direction the world seems to be going. Unfortunately, I think it's kind of I don't know.
Do they have a special app for people that are two-faced?
They should if they don't, but I think
I don't recognize you. Okay, that's your dishonest face.
I think corporate America will take your money no matter what. So
that right.
So I just have to, you know, it's happening, and I don't know exactly why, but it's because writing is, you know, if you're writing someone a letter and it's in your creative side, I would have to think that emotion and things are going into the words that when the other people reads it, they're going to get where they probably don't pick that energy up from just printing, you know, that way.
Well, it's true because, I mean, ever since the advent of the computer, I moved away from handwritten letters. I mean, I haven't sent a handwritten letter in ages. If I have to send a physical letter, which most of the time it's not even that, it's email. But if I ever send a physical letter, it's a typewritten letter from the computer. So even then, but you get my signature. My signature is cursive. It's going to stay that way.
Yeah, we'll see. You know, by the time, of course, you'll be here long after I'm gone, probably. So, okay, it's test time now. From what you've learned so far, I'm going to show you a famous person's writing.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to read anything about it. You just look at it, and I'll ask you a question. And this is the, okay, let's see here. Okay. I just ask you a question is you just kind of look at the style of this. Is this person having an up day or a down day?
Well, it's definitely pessimistic. It's being
Down
slanted
day.
down. Yeah.
And they're very pushy and
Now, at the very bottom is the person's signature. It's right the very last
It's
thing.
almost nothing there. It's like
Does this person feel big or small about themselves?
small. Yeah.
This is Michael Jackson.
yeah.
Oh,
when the MJ
interesting.
met Michael Jackson.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. This is when he was going through a lot of that mess, and he wrote this to someone smuggled it out, and we had it in handwriting class.
Yes, yeah. There's no margins.
But you also notice though that the spacing is kind of tight in places.
It's all crunched. He's down.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
almost, I just was reading this a minute ago and just thinking of the poor soul, you know, I mean, sure, maybe he did some stuff wrong, but again, you know, he just, you know, doesn't mean that he was all bad or all evil or anything, because a lot of us has made wrong decisions in our life, done some bad things.
I think he was robbed of being a child, and
Yeah, I mean,
and
there's a lot to that.
Led
you
to
know.
some issues.
Yeah.
A lot of understanding. Okay, now here's one. This is fun now too. Okay, I'm going to show you this one, and I'm trying to think of the right words for this because it's going to be so obvious. But you know, would you hire this guy?
Okay, let's see. Go ahead and talk, Regan. So the camera comes on
I'm
you.
sorry. Just take a look.
Oh
at
my
that.
goodness, no,
Lord,
no, that looks like mental illness to me.
Yeah, and that's oh my gosh. Oh,
I mean, I can't even read any of that. I don't even.
Charlie Manson. That's Charlie
Oh
Manson.
my goodness, that makes sense.
Zach
Okay.
might have a
Yeah.
copy of that.
Yeah,
This is a letter he
you
wrote
want
to
one
the
if he
parole-
doesn't have it.
Yeah, he wrote this to the parole board. That was a letter he wrote.
I mean, I can't
So
even make
yes.
out one word.
I mean, it's there. You could tell there's a disjoint.
Yeah,
you
there's a
know,
disconnect.
and his whole self.
Right.
Yeah.
Now here's one more, and this one might be a little bit harder for you to get.
Okay.
And what did I do with it? But it gives you again. It gives you an idea of how this kind of works. Now, you see where it starts on there. It says, "Dear friend."
Yes.
Now, just look at the friend part, and do you think that when she's writing this, how does she feel about this? Just feel like it's a person close to her or someone?
No,
It looks like someone she
trailing
doesn't
off.
like. Actually.
trailing off
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
You see how the aspin goes down like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
This is Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, who was she writing
And
to?
she's writing. I
Probably
might
the
just
president.
even be a fan because it says, "Dear friend, you will see more of me in Let's Make Love." That was a movie she did.
Okay.
Now, also, this isn't from the printing or thing. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. On the loops of the M and the L, you notice how there's spaces missing?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
She
Okay.
skipped over.
Yeah. What they found out now, they've been able to with people's handwriting, they've been able to identify dozens of diseases that a person has just by looking at their handwriting. And they found out that somehow if there's something going on in your body or the brain, you're not able to, you know, finish those loops or something, or there'll be missing spaces in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I wasn't schooled in that, but I know that's, you know, one place that they've taken this, you know,
Right.
if finding out, you know, that way. Just so we don't forget, because everybody loves this one here, I'm just going to show you. One reason, again, that companies do this, the first thing they would have me look for is any negative stuff. Okay.
Right.
Is this person got pent up anger issues? Does it look like they could be lying? And once we get past that, then they say, now tell me all the good stuff about them. And everybody that came in today, all you people out there did that. You're perfectly hireable. It's all good stuff.
Well, that's good to know. I got a good audience, don't I?
Yeah.
I didn't find a djinn in there or a devil. At least he's hiding.
No, we get rid of those guys real quick. So
but there's something, and I'm glad I have a hard time making this. It's called the Maniac D.
Oh Lord,
And
pay attention.
It's this
Maniac
is really
D.
rare.
Let me go
I'm
get my
glad
paper
that it
here.
is rare. I'll try to make it here. I tried during the break, but let's see. Oh boy. Well, okay, this is supposed to be a D,
Yeah.
Let me see that
but
again.
it's where the stem of the D at the end of a word, it's like AND,
Yeah.
the stem shoots out at like a 45-degree angle. It's just weird. It's when
Yeah, I don't have any of that.
Mine's a loop.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what they found out is not every serial killer, but they've only found it in serial killers.
Oh,
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Have this D. The only thing they can think of is got to do some disconnect with the mind. Okay. And maybe that's because a lot of serial killers don't really have empathy. They don't know.
True. Yeah.
We've got
that
we got a caller coming in, an anonymous call. Let's go ahead and take it. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, it's Danielle.
Oh, Danielle. Hey,
Oh, hey, girl.
You're calling all the way from the UK. Look at
Hi.
that.
I am indeed.
Fantastic. Well, come on. I think we already saw your handwriting. So
We
do you have a
did.
question
Heart
about
and
it?
all.
I do. I was interested to ask whether being autistic has any bearing on how your handwriting comes out.
I don't know. That's a good question. Back when I was studying this, they were just getting on the bandwagon with autism and everybody on the spectrum and everything like that. The only thing that we found for sure that can, give you false readings in that is people that have some physical illnesses where they're just physically
Not able to write properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it can come out shaky
Yeah.
or it could come out, different things like this. But I don't know. And it's because, I'd have to look at it and see. And I would say a pretty good expert in the 20 things that companies are looking for that, like we're going through right now. But boy, people that do this for a living, they're just, I'm just blown away at how much, deeper they can even go and tell you about people's, personality. So it's a good question. And I don't know if you went online and Googled a graphologist, one who's actually there's 20,000 certified graphologists in the USA. That surprised me.
That's a lot.
That
I
is.
thought you were going to say the world.
Yeah, I would have thought the world
Yeah.
on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, matter of fact, in France and Switzerland, 80% of large corporations use it for hiring purposes. So it's
Interesting.
actually used a little bit more than it is here in the U.S. It's been considered that a long time.
Wow.
Scotland Yard's been using it a lot of times in court cases and things like that.
Do you hear about that out there in the UK, Danielle, about handwriting analysis? Does it come up at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. A hell of a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
Even
Bishop-
right back to Jack the Ripper, they're still trying to analyze his handwriting.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm thinking,
Well, you used it in the force.
yeah, we used it for like bad checks and stuff just to compare it
Yeah.
to the actual forgery, but not an analysis.
You didn't do
like
this kind of thing?
No, but I'm going to get that book and I'm going to start looking, and our clients are going to start submitting handwriting analysis.
Have them write something down. Have them write this paragraph.
I
here.
have a question real quick. I don't want to interrupt, but
Yeah.
does the pressure, some people write
Oh, yeah.
like they're trying to destroy the page, and then others
Yeah,
write like a
this,
feather.
like this.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm very heavy-handed. What's the difference between a light-handed person and a heavy-handed?
Sometimes when they did the writing, they would give everybody the same pencil. Like if they're in a room and they're having everybody write the same thing. And some people would use a lot more pressure than others. It could mean a lot of things, but a lot of times a person has more pressure, is a little more a little more, it's almost obvious, like a little more forceful in a
Guilty.
way.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to make this political at all, but when I saw Donald Trump's writing,
It's very. I've got a signature. I got a autographed book from him long before he was ever a president and all this mess.
Yeah.
But it's a very chaotic signature.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very pointy.
Yeah.
When I was living in Mexico for a while, and I would come up on the weekends to San Diego, and I would put up a 10 by 10 booth right there on the beach, and I had a big, nice booth, and it said handwriting analysis, and that's how I'd get my hypnotherapy clients, because I have my cards there. I get talking to people, and everybody's got problems, so I would pick up a lot of clients that way. Well, I had this one young man in San Diego that came there, and he did his handwriting, and I'm just going to show you, if you were just looking at it and didn't know what it said. It was a lot like this.
Oh wow! Okay.
See all those?
Yeah.
See all those points? Those are like daggers. Okay. Yeah. So, when I saw that, I knew what it meant. But his wife and his child were with him there or something, and I just said in the easiest possible way. He says, "Well, you want me to tell you what I really see here?" And he says, "Yes." And he says, "I think you've got a lot of pent up anger in here that you might need some help." And his wife looked over and goes, "Yeah, you think?"
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, and then, because I'm the therapist there, they confided in me. I mean, he just got back from
Iraq,
from Afghanistan,
or
Iraq.
yeah.
And he had just seen hell over there, so he had some severe PTSD. So, luckily, I mean, I wasn't there to help him, but I told him, as we're going to do in another show, and matter of fact, maybe this is a good time, I'll just plug it a little bit, because I can't wait to talk about that too.
Sure.
The energy psychology is just taking over the psychological community right now, because it's getting such good results, quick results. People are actually not having to go for years now to therapy, and usually 3 or 4 or 5 sessions. Even with my clients with severe PTSD, they're getting some semblance of normalcy again. And it's using 3 modalities. People look these up so you can watch the show when you come, and we'll even teach you how to do some of it. One's called the Havening Touch. Okay, it's you can learn it in 5 minutes, and you can just feel the positive benefits in your body in a minute, and what it does. The other one's EFT. People call it tapping.
Yep.
Okay, it's
Right.
EFT.
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that on your first visit,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And I'll talk. I
I'm
wrote
a big
book
fan of it.
And I'll show the book on there too. I'll probably give a discount or something if anybody wants it, or I'll just we'll figure something out.
Sure.
I wrote a book called Phobias and Fears Gone in 1 Hour, and you can do it all by yourself. And I have clients.
That would be so good. I'm terrified of spiders.
So many people have phobias or fears, and they don't know where they came from. They're ruining their lives because they can't do certain things. And
so your show on this is scheduled for March 21st. So anybody that's listening now, in 1 month.
The day before my birthday.
Oh, well, look at that. It's your gift. It's your gift.
If you know anybody that has fears and phobias, that sort of thing, be sure and tune in for the show, because I'm going to hook you up, to where you can get rid of it. And the last one is EMDR. And it's like eye movement and desensitization. And we still don't know how this works. All we know is it works. We see people right before us with severe PTSD and things like this that are like this.
Yeah.
And then after 3 or 4 sessions, they're sitting there talking just like this. And they go, "I can't believe how I feel." And testing them months later, they stay that way. It's just
releasing that trauma.
Something that your listeners will love.
And it's so important to get rid of fear. Fear is such an inhibitor. So it's such an important thing to be able to manage it properly, because even the work that I do, every aspect of spiritual illness can be traced back to a fear response. Mm-hmm. Every single one. So if you control fear, then you get better. I mean, and once you have spiritual health, that leads into emotional health. Emotional health leads into psychological health, and psychological health leads to physical health. So it's kind of a reverse pyramid in a way, and you want to have that spiritual health to be optimal. The best way to do that is to be able to manage fear properly, to utilize it, and to understand how to work with it.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah.
So if you know the exact cause of your phobia, does that help?
I'm sorry. Oh, if you know what it's from.
So if you know the exact cause of your phobia, does that help?
I have found in working with clients, if they know where it came from, it's a little easier for me to get rid of it. If they don't, we still don't need to.
Yeah.
It's just when you have a fear or phobia, it's like a fear is generally something that happened. You have a fear of something. Well, something happened in your life. Generally, with phobias, sometimes phobias come from things that you have no clue. Like I'll talk on there about, I had a police officer, this is right up your guys' alley,
Yeah.
that was deathly afraid of ketchup.
Really?
Ketchup?
Yeah, I laughed. And when he told me what it was, I laughed. I thought he was joking. But the other officers would throw packets of ketchup at him and watch him go into panic attacks.
You mean like he didn't even have to see the product, just having the container?
Just in a container, yeah. And he's CSI, okay. So I thought, okay, it's got to be blood, right?
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Was he?
And it wasn't that. It wasn't that. And I was doing this for a company at an event, and he was there. And his girlfriend, I did handwriting analysis actually, and she heard I was a therapist, and it said on my card, fears, phobia. She says, well, I hope you can help my fiance here because I like ketchup on my fries, and I can't do that when He said he makes me go into a restaurant, make sure there's no ketchup on the table, or he won't go in. And if I sneak and if I had ketchup and he knows about it, he won't kiss me like for 2 weeks. He makes me brush my teeth constantly. He says, and he hates doing that to me, but it's crazy. So I said, well, come on outside. He was outside. I had someone go get some ketchup. I did the tapping with him for like 10, 15 minutes. He didn't even know what was going on. And I had him close his eyes. And after we did the tapping 10, 15 minutes, I had him hold out his hand, and they put a whole plate of ketchup on his palm.
No problem.
Hand. And I didn't know what was going to happen. When he opened his eyes,
Be like getting a pie in the face, yeah.
We have a crime scene.
So did he feel that way? Did he feel that way towards like derivative products like steak sauce that has ketchup in it?
I don't know.
That's interesting. What an interesting irrational fear.
It's one of my case histories in the book. Yeah. But he opened his eyes, and I can still remember him looking at it, and his mind can't understand why he's not throwing a fit. And he just stared at it for 2 or 3 minutes, and he looked at me, and he just goes, whoa. I ran into him 3 years later, and he came up to me, and I didn't recognize him because I'd only seen him that time. He says, Regan, I don't know what the F you did. He said, I've never had that problem since. He says, I won't eat it. I still won't eat it on anything, but I'm okay if someone else does and whatever. And he just said, thanks, man. I said, yeah, you gave me a good chapter in my book. Thank you.
Well, we've got a call here coming in from the 701 area code in North Dakota. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, Bishop, Jamie, Regan, everybody. It's Kathy.
Hey, Kathy.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Hey. Thank you. So I have kind of a two-part question, I guess. My question is, can handwriting be used in kind of, I don't know, more like an intuitive tarot card kind of way to help you make decisions? Like if I'm thinking of applying for a certain job, moving to a certain...
Oh, yeah.
So you can use it in a divinatory sense, Regan.
Yeah. Well, okay, if you have your handwriting analyzed, what I've helped some people do is to eliminate some type of jobs that they probably wouldn't be good at, to get down the right. For instance, we're talking about the small writing or the big writing. If we know your degree, if we figure out your degree of introvertness or extrovertness, a lot of jobs, especially if you're more of a social person and you're more of a like to be seen and that kind of thing, you're not going to be doing good at a desk job in the back of a warehouse where you don't get a really, you're going to be unhappy as heck, So I've helped some people to just not take any job. Say, look, you're going to just hate your job when you're in there, because some people just go, God, just whatever I get, I'm just going to take. Well, no, you got to spend some time and actually go in the direction that you're going to be good at. Also, too, if you're a people person, like some people just are born salesmen. They could sell from the minute they get up till the time they go to sleep, and when they're in the room and what product they have because they just do it naturally. It's not something like I was a salesman for a while, but I'm more of I'm 60-40. I'm like 60% introvert, 40% extrovert. Okay. I'm like, I think us three here are pretty much the same about.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about that, you know, karaoke thing. I'd have a couple drinks, I could get up and do karaoke, but you know, other than that, forget it, you know. But I watch these people, they just come in and boom, right up on stage and boom, you know, and America is kind of an extrovert country, you know, and, you know, you seem more rewarded, you know, like if you're outgoing. And so some people that are introvert, they feel less than, you know, because they don't get
true.
But it's about 50-50. There's about 50% of us are introverts, 50% extroverts. And you're not getting anywhere without the both kinds, okay? Because the world, it's the introverts that are driving the world forward in innovation, in technology, because they can do all this research and they just love it. You know, where the extrovert is like, oh my God, I'm on the computer for 2 minutes. I got to go say hi to Bob over here, you know, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can use it's not going to tell you everything, but it'll help you eliminate some things, or maybe help you find the kind of job that you might be good at or have an aptitude for. Does that help?
Okay. Yes. And then another question I guess I would have too is, do you find that there's a difference in handwriting between people who are entrepreneurs versus people who are content to work for someone else?
Yeah.
What would be the characteristic that you'd look for?
The characteristic of an entrepreneur is usually oh gosh, I can see it in my mind. Kind of, it's a little more distinctive, there's a little more energy in it. You know, I mean, it's like, phew, can't wait to tell you about what I'm doing, you know, kind of thing. So you can tell, you know, a little bit about that. I was looking for one of these that came in here because I had written down. Oh, well, in the handwriting here too, and this is a little bit about it. When you guys look at your D's at the end of a word, like and somewhere in there.
Okay.
And let me see.
Yeah, let me put it up here. I'll get you mine.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm going to go straight down.
Here it is.
And, let's see. D right there. Okay. 400. And I guess you got an AD. There's no N in there, right?
Let me see. Yeah. It's kind of blended.
It's
in.
kind of there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The size of the loop, the bigger the size of the loop, the more sensitive a person is to criticism. Okay.
Well, shit. That's a fact.
So, in other words, now it's not a negative. It's not a negative thing. But if
Right.
you, for instance, you're an employer,
I got a big old
and
loop.
you look at that, and if he's got a, I'll tell you. Well, I'm going to go to the extreme here, but this will make the point.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, if it's not there, like the D. So if you've got a big old balloon.
Yeah, that's
in the
what I've
D,
got.
like this.
I've got that.
Okay. Now, what that means is that, okay, let's say you have to correct some of the work of your worker, but you care about your worker and you don't want to hurt their feelings, okay? The person with a big balloon on there, you're going to sugarcoat it a little bit because you know that they're sensitive more, okay? That they get their feelings hurt a little easier, okay? So, that way, if you're going to criticize, it would just be, you know, good, being a good employer and taking care of your people and say, hey, Bob, you know, that work you did last week was really great, you know, and I really, you know, I can't get along without you, you know, but I had an idea. You know, that other work you did there was a little bit missing in there. Do you think you'd be willing to maybe do a little bit of that over again or something? Because some bosses would come in and say, Bob, you just effed up, man. You know, I don't even know why I hired you. Okay, did you get that done? You know, that guy's going to be crushed. You know, he's going to be a worse employee. Okay,
Right.
So that's all it is. But it also the big balloon there also means too, and this is the plus on that, is that you're a dreamer. You know,
Yeah.
in other words,
Yeah.
you're
Always have been. Yep, sure have.
big ideas,
Yeah.
dreams. You
Yeah.
know, so See, so people always want to look at the negative things, but there's usually the up and the down to everything.
So basically, the straight line, like Tracy, my wife, hers is not or hardly looped at all. In fact, there's no loop in most of them. It's a straight line. So that sounds like it would be an indication of more practicality.
Well, yes, and she's open to constructive criticism.
Which is true.
In other words, if she'd be like going to her boss would come to her and start saying, "Hey, what do you need me to do? You need me to do that better?" Okay.
Yeah, she doesn't. She doesn't like casual criticism, but if it's something that is like you said, constructive or something that
something that she can generally improve on.
Yeah, then she takes that actually quite well.
I just think I'm being attacked. I'm horrible at it.
And it's, even this too now. It's like you guys get to know each other just a little better.
Yeah.
And she knows, like, when she's pissed off at you, she can just say, "Hey, sweetheart, I really love what you did for me the other week, but I kind of, could you maybe,
You are currently the only person in this
instead of just attacking you, that way."
Right.
Okay, we did the stabbing lines. Oh, we were talking about Trump's writing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just he if you Google, so many graphologists have put it out there. You can Google and see what they say about Trump's writing. There's a couple of them that they're trying to give the best possible scenario to it, but he has the O's that you don't see very often. If you go online and you see his O's in the middle of words.
This is all I've got. This is Trump's signature.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's all I've got.
Yeah. So on the plus side, he's trying to say with that he's the most confident MFer in the world.
Well, we kind of know that from his behavior. Yeah. So that's kind of true, right?
A lot of times in the signature like that.
Well, look, there's no O.
It's an overcompensation.
You don't see the O in Donald. It's all just
actually in the one I saw.
Yeah.
That I watched last night. His O has what we call. See that little stab in it?
Yeah.
Right at the top, that little thing there.
Yeah.
That just in itself, if we were looking at someone's, is a red flag. But you can't say someone's dishonest by that. You have to look at a half a dozen different things and look at it all together.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
But that's one red flag right there, and you don't see it too often when you have that stab mark, and right down the middle of it.
So just let's like a short stab, not a full loop or anything.
Well, it could be a full stab or just anything that's going down into the balloon, like a needle in the balloon or something that way. Can be something you go, okay, let me just check that. Let me check some other things.
Okay.
So. I forget what it was, but I just got a chill. Because I remember there was a college kid that came. I was looking at his handwriting, and I saw something really serious in it. And I'm thinking, I've never had to do this before, but I owe it to him. He's coming here for that. And when I told him what it was, he got so angry. He called me a really bad name, says you don't know what you're doing.
Really?
So you were actually right.
Yeah.
You called him out.
Yeah.
And I went because it was, and I wish I think I blocked it out because I'm a nice guy. I try to not, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but in that case, I think it was really a bad guy, because I remember how angry he got. And I was just sitting there for a minute going, I hope he doesn't come back now or think I'm going to tell someone about him or something.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I know it had to do with anger, dishonesty, and I don't. It wasn't the Maniac D. I would have remembered that.
I'll be looking at everybody's Maniac D.
Nobody wants the Maniac D.
No, we don't want the Maniac D.
Yeah. Let me just show you. Paula. This is Paula's writing here. Mm-hmm. This is just. Boy, I'd hire her in 10 seconds.
Oh, I would too.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all the good space between words. She's optimistic, got good self-esteem and confidence, can handle constructive criticism. Her eyes, now I circled them, her eyes are way up in the stratosphere. And that means high creativity. Okay. This person's very creative. just like, whoo, come on in. I'll give you a bonus your first week. So good going on that. Now, I don't want us to run out of time, so let's do the signature, and I can come back to a few other things because the signature is really fun.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a little over 10 minutes, so we got time.
Okay. Now, as I say, the signature is kind of coming some from the subconscious and some from the conscious, because most people at some point have thought about their signature. They've kind of designed it. They want to, kind of thing. Now, when you write a letter to somebody and you sign it, they subconsciously are going to pick up. They're going to pick up things about you. It may not be. In some level, they're going to know. It's going to tell them something about you. Okay.
So this is mine.
Okay. Now. I'm looking at your signature there, and I would say your name, it looks like you're one of the characters from the Peanuts cartoon or something. It reminds me of those characters or something in there.
I feel like that sometimes.
Well, what that means is when you can't, because so many people, you can't read their signature, okay?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
What that means is subconsciously that we call it take me or leave me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, it's not really, really important to you that somebody understand, or can read it. Okay. Some people's signatures that you can read every little letter. Okay. Those people want to be understood, and it's important to them. But a lot of people, like rich people and people that feel good about themselves, and it's not a big deal. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that I will tell you, though, that you need to watch out for.
Okay.
Sometimes you have a lot of lines in there that could be considering crossing through yourself. Mm-hmm. You see all those lines? Mm-hmm. And it's like sometimes when people do that, they're subconsciously crossing themselves out. Okay. So loops over the top are okay. When you do a loop, when you sign your name and you have like a line going up over you, it's usually a protective. It's like putting a roof over you that way to kind of protect you from criticism or something. It's just a self-protective kind of mechanism,
right?
Shield.
But in a signature now, you want three things to give the best. Like when you go into court, everybody's wearing a suit, right? You got that guy that just killed 10 people and had hair down to his waist, and now he's clean cut and got a Brooks suit on. And he goes into court, because he wants to give the best first impression to the judge and to the jury. Well, the same with the signature. Most people want to show that you feel big about yourself. And that you show optimism and confidence in your signature. And the way you do that is to make the first letter of your first name and the first letter of your last name. It's like your mom, in Europe where they had what do I want to call it? You come in and you could tell what family it was because they had their monarch.
Like the, what is that called?
I forget. Then it's a banner,
Yeah.
Crest.
Like a crest. Yes. A family crest.
Right. So, let's say I'll use my initials here. So obviously, if I come in with the banner, there's the family that doesn't feel that big about themselves, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So you want the first letter of your, and I'll show you here a sample here. Okay, I'm going to sign it. Okay. Now, this isn't to the extreme, but
okay,
some
see
people see the first one right there.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. The second one, where you have the bigger initial and the bigger second initial that way, that's like your monogram or something like that. And that, if I said to people, which Regan feels bigger about himself, it's obvious, right?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, the other thing too is, and I'll sign how. This is how I sign sometimes, like when I was performing and I used to sign, autographs and stuff.
Yeah.
And have you ever noticed, if you ever look at when people are giving autographs, you're never really ever going to see an autograph that goes down. They're always going to be looked something like this, aren't they?
Yeah,
you
that's
notice
true.
how they have that up? That's because when the person signed this, they're feeling really good about themselves. They're feeling important. They're feeling big. When you put the lines under yourself or something like that, you're like putting yourself up on a pedestal. Okay. And it's kind of like that. So this signature here, and the way that like the F, the line there, the T, see how the T goes up with lots of confidence, and the line under that. So, this is, if I was signing something like this or whatever, people would say, oh, this guy feels good about himself. That's a good one.
So Tracy's, based on what you've said, Tracy seems like it's a bit of concern then.
Yeah.
Because
it would be too, because you're, especially that last loop that's going through where the dagger is out the end like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a subconscious thing or something that it's kind of like making yourself not as important or not feeling that way. And now that could be true or not be true, but someone's subconscious is going to maybe pick that up. So I would kind of redesign a little bit. If you're going to do that last loop, have it go underneath instead of going through. It's going right through your body. Yeah, right through your body.
And Jamie's looks pretty good if based upon, again, what you're saying here. Let me see if I can get it up there. There it is, right there.
That one.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that is my AKA, so...
Yeah. Now, here's one thing notice too. Move it a little one way. There we go. Notice how the J is bigger than the C, and is that a U or a W?
W. Wolf.
Okay. Now, you notice how the J is a lot bigger than the W, and that just gives you a little sign that she's more comfortable with her first name than her last name.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, like she's just,
I think I know why too, but
and that happens a lot of time when people are. Now, is that your married name or your?
No, that's my alias name for what I do.
Because she's a retired police officer. She doesn't.
You can show them my real signature because no one's going to be able to read it.
Okay, well, this is her real one, but yeah, she keeps her name.
Yeah, I put a lot of bad people in jail over the years, so I don't.
So this is her real one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See how that goes up like that. That's good. That's got a lot of energy in it. And you finish with the shoom to the moon.
Yeah. There's like the last couple letters just get kind of looped into a squiggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good. That's good. Okay. So that's what I would do is I would just figure something and just figure, hey, if this is just one little thing that can help you feel better about yourself, change a little bit where you're not, crossing through yourself. You're not like tying yourself up.
Interesting.
Making things around and that sort of thing. That's good. And we got, I'm just trying to think here. Boy, we went through pretty much everything pretty good. That was like a 6 weeks course.
I feel educated.
I do.
I got a book to buy.
I mean, honestly.
I did this I had a ball doing it. I'd make a couple $100 a day down at the beach. I was living in Mexico, and I'd go and do that, and I'd pick up some clients that I ended up helping. I'll end with just a real quick story.
Yeah.
Talking about how God puts people right where they need to be. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Inevitably, when I would open my heart and I would say during the day, I'd say, "Okay, God, I know I'm here for a reason. Who do you need me to see today?" On and off over the year and a half that I did the handwriting down there, I had two people come to me. I did their handwriting analysis. They both one was about 6 months from the other. They both hung around till I was done, and they wanted to talk to me. And both of them said they had come there that day to kill themselves.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. One guy flew all the way from Illinois. He just happened to see my booth. I did his handwriting. He was just hanging around all day,
Yeah.
And then he offered to help me pack up and everything. And he says, "I think I need your help." And then he says, I came here right behind me. He was going to go down to the beach. He had the knife. He had it all planned out. He had deserted his family 15 years ago. 3 kids and a wife, just took off, never came back. He had grown up and matured, and he just wanted to see his kids, but he just knew they would hate his guts, and that he felt like, now that he's matured, he felt horrible about himself.
Right. Yeah.
So I said, "Get in the car."
Sure.
So we went to another part of the park, and I spent 4 hours with him in the car, and we did tapping, we did hypnosis, I just threw the kitchen sink at him. And all he needed is some love. You know, he
Right.
needed someone to tell him that, you know what, you got 3 kids. You might have 2 of them that hate your guts, but I almost guarantee that one of them there's going to love you to pieces, is going to be worth you hanging around for, you know.
You still do private practice, Regan?
Yeah, I still have my, and I specialize in PTSD.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, one of the things that we're not equipped for in this work that I do is once I work a spiritual resolution for a client that's either having a demonic issue or some kind of spirit attachment or whatever, and once we remove it, there's usually lasting trauma there that needs to be worked through, and the church doesn't have the resources or the time to really do that part of it. They have to get self-care, either go to a psychologist or something, but I would love to be able to refer some of our clients to you.
I'd love to help them.
Because that's something that I think you could do a lot of good with our particular people, our clientele.
People need to know that there's help. God is, we're in a different world right now. It's almost like God is opening up all these different portals for people to see more of him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like he's close. It's like the wall is getting thinner and thinner, you know, that way.
It is. Yeah.
And matter of fact, in the next show, let's talk more about that, because I'm going to teach you to, especially something that you'll be able to do with your parishioners and people you help, and you could help them right after. You could even do this for 10 or 15 minutes with them before you leave. And that would be this it's called the Havening Touch.
Okay.
Even if you look it up, I mean, you're going to see people. If you go to Havening Touch original site, they have about 4 videos on there. Anybody watching? There's one of them on there of a lady, and she had lost a pregnancy, lost a baby, and it devastated her. I mean, she could not function. They did the Havening Touch with her for about a half an hour that way, and just watch and see how she feels. She could not believe it. And even when they test her later, it's just something, touch, energy, as it moves in your body and it gets in the right place, fears and phobias, it kind of rewires. It kind of rewires things, so those things just go away, and God's going to let them just disappear.
That's fantastic. You know? Regan, real quick, what's your website for everybody so they can find you if they'd like to call you and maybe make an appointment?
It's visittheafterlife.com. There's some section in there about the spiritual therapy I do, and then there's the traditional therapy.
Okay.
And there's videos about all the different things on there. So if the spiritual therapy is too woo-woo for you, then we do traditional. But I will tell you, if you are a spiritual person and you're open to kind of call God into this, I see my clients get better 2-3 times faster. I mean, it's just
something?
It's like just knowing that they can't do this alone, and that somehow, even though they don't understand it, God is there and willing to help them. He's just waiting for you to say hi.
Well, on that note, I think that is the best way to close out. Regan, thank you so much, and I can't wait to do this again next month.
Yeah, I'll look forward to it. I'm going to be on the road then, but I'll be either doing it from my van or a hotel or wherever I'm staying, because I have these 5 Life Between Life sessions I'm doing down in Southern California, and I'm just knocking them off as I go and golfing in between.
Sounds
Safe
good.
Travels, always a pleasure, Regan.
Absolutely.
Right. Love you guys, and I missed Chris, right?
Yeah, he'll be with us the whole show next time. He just had some other obligations. So
I always think of you guys as the 3 Musketeers. So,
Thank you much.
You're doing good work, you guys, and I hope you have a great season. Oh, and
you as well.
When you're going to really love Natasha when she comes on the show too.
That's
Can't
right.
wait.
She is a ball of light.
We're looking forward to it. We're looking forward. She is. It will be next week, a week from tonight. Natasha Venter. I'm sorry, Natasha Venter, and she will be talking about mediumship and correcting its many misconceptions. That will be next week, a week from tonight, on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We hope that we'll see you then. Thank you, Regan. Thank you, everybody who called into the show and submitted your handwriting analysis. It was a fantastic start to the season, and guess what? We lost 0 packets on this show. So the technology works. The new technology is giving us a strong, consistent signal, and if this keeps up, we'll go back to simulcasting. Until then, though, I'll see you out there in the ether.
Thanks, everybody.
God bless.